Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have first-time guest, Alfonso Colasuonno. I know I butchered that. Sorry, Alfonso. We were working on it before the show. But Colasuonno. I'm as close as I'm probably going to get to it tonight. He is the co-author of the book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn. You heard that right. We're going to actually get to talk about unicorns tonight. We've done the Bigfoot, we've done Loch Ness, we've done Champ, we've done fairies, vampires. We've covered a lot of creatures, but we've never got to do the unicorn. The unicorn, yes. Really going to get to do the unicorn tonight. I've been reading the book, as sadly not as much of it as I wanted to. This last week, I know a couple weeks ago you heard I had talked about on the show we lost our dog Bella. Well, we lost also her sister, who was 2 years younger. She was 15. Asia passed away. It was her time. It was a rough week this week. I've been looking forward to this show to talk about unicorns, take my mind off of it. It hurts, for people that don't have pets, maybe you don't understand, but people who do, it's losing a family member. So it's been a tough week. So I'm glad my Paranormal Soup family's here to help me get through it today. I'm excited to talk about unicorns. And of course, we got a lot of weird to get to in the World Wide Web of weird. And we will take your phone calls later in the show, but let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight, our guest, Alfonso Colasuonno, co-author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn, will join us after our first commercial break, after the World Wide Web of Weird, for those who are tuning in for him. But if you want to join us, and those all the way, by the way, if you want to jump, skip ahead, and you've never seen the show, you're here for the unicorns, I get it. But you should check out the World Wide Web of Weird. We got some interesting stuff tonight. Joining me every Sunday night is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excited to talk about unicorns? Very
excited.
Yeah, like I said, my big interest in unicorns goes, and I'll probably say this over and over tonight, but it's one of those creatures like the dragon that's in all cultures, all histories. It's why? It's for something that didn't exist, or did it exist? Does it exist now? That's the questions to ask. Our, of course, running the World Wide Web of Weird is the weird man himself, Rob Autry from St. Augustine, Florida. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Pretty good. Glad to be here. Interesting topic, unicorns tonight.
Yes, unicorns. And I know some people are like, oh, come on, give me a break. Unicorns, really? I was just talking about my Jamie's asked, what was your first paranormal thing? And I saw a green floating head when I was like 4 years old that changed my perspective of life. You know what changed my perspective? It taught me that anything is possible. And I've stuck to that perspective. And I believe unicorns can be possible. Big fan of the movie Legend, one of my favorite movies. So you're going to hear some references tonight, maybe a little clip. You know, I'm not like I'm saying a super unicorn fan, but I believe in the possibility. Maybe not in the possibility that people can just be a unicorn if they want to be, but I believe in the possibility. But speaking of weird things like that, let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, while we're going to be talking about unicorns tonight, everybody's on the craze of talking about monoliths. Both phallic symbols there, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's the monolith craze, I guess. The end of 2020 has got to be monoliths. I don't know why. But of course, we got the first two stories we're going to talk about monoliths. Have you heard enough about monoliths? For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can watch us on Facebook and YouTube. Please follow, subscribe, and thank you to everyone who shares out the show. Keep telling your friends about Paranormal Soup. But up tonight, of course, to begin the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to talk about monoliths. Yeah, we talked about this last week about the, right as this, I was getting ready to talk about the monolith in Utah. Somebody took it in the middle of the night, and we covered that. The question who removed the mysterious monolith found in Utah last month has been answered, as a pair of individuals have stepped forward to take credit for the bringing down the odd object. The 10 to 12 foot tall metallic piece sparked something of a sensation last week when news of its discovery made headlines around the world and captured the imagination of people on social media. Theories abounded as to who could have placed it. Now, somebody has come across, an artist or an artistic group has come across, I guess, claiming to have made this now. But all the kind of theories were out there. You know, I thought pretty much, yeah, some artists stuck it out there. An initial report from a witness on the scene described a group of 4 individuals toppling the monolith this past Friday evening, telling the observer, "This is why you don't leave trash in the desert." They subsequently dismantled the object and carted it away in a wheelbarrow. Excuse me. The disappearance of the monolith was later confirmed by the Bureau of Land Management, who indicated that it was not their doing. Meanwhile, local authorities largely joked about the matter on social media, likely thankful that they won't have to worry about rescuing any ill-equipped adventurers who journeyed out to the desert to find the object. Basically, the article goes on, the people that took this down wanted it down because they saw too much foot traffic going to this spot, a spot that's kind of protected. It's going to destroy the natural ecosystem or all that. I get that. But them to take it upon themselves to do it. Remember I said that some guy drove off in a truck? Yeah, this is a picture of them. A number of guys took it down. And I think they just left that base there that you were talking about last week. But moving on, monoliths now are popping up everywhere. It's like the most popular thing in the world after this thing. It's like, I don't know. Next one, a third monolith is showing up in California. And they say third because we didn't even cover the one that was in Romania. Right? It was Romania. Is that where it was, Rob? Jamie?
Yeah.
First, there's one in Utah, which subsequently disappeared. Then here we go. There was a second one in Romania. Now a third monolith has appeared, this time on the mountain of Atascadero, California. I don't know where that is. The phenomenon, which started out when a helicopter pilot spotted one in Utah on November 18th, has become a topic of heated debate over the last few weeks. The latest monolith, which looks very similar to the previous two, has since been visited by dozens of hikers who tracked up to the top of the hill. So anything you want to do to get people to come to your locale is just put together a steel monolith, and we'll come to it like dumb apes and go and beat on it like in 2001 Space Odyssey, right? Why what did I show last week? The guys climbing on top of it. I'm like, God, they showed the monkeys in 2001 Space Odyssey showed it more respect than the people that did out there, honestly.
I thought about decorating for Christmas this year and just putting a monolith in my front yard.
Yeah, with the Christmas tree lights on it.
Yeah, call it a day.
I saw somebody had a Santa Carbonite from Star Wars, like it was a Carbonite Santa, like nice. That's Han Solo and Carbonite frozen, but it was Santa. That was awesome. I would love to have that. And my wife would be like, no. Okay. Maybe she'd be cool with that. I don't know. All right. She's listening. Carbonite Santa, Susan. That'd be awesome. It has like green and red lights on the side that blink. Okay. Anyways. All right.
Okay, it'll be okay.
Well, at the end of 2020 is monolith spotting, but over the last year of 2020, we've had a number of World Wide Web weird stories about the cats in England, the big black cats that everybody's spotting. Well, this to me it's the story's over. It's definitive proof. There is definitely big puma-like black cats in England. Because there's no question to this. This is not a house cat that's just being not sighted. Because we've seen a lot in the field and that. Like, it could be a house cat. No. No. Watch. Multiple security cameras filmed big cat prowling the streets of a British town. A series of security camera videos filmed over the course of several days appear to show a mysterious big cat prowling the streets of a town in England. The intriguing case reportedly began last week when the CCTV system at a historic Peace Hall in the community of Halifax spotted what seems to be a rather sizable feline casually roaming around outside the building. According to the director of the facility, the creature was noticed by other operations team members during a routine auditing of the overnight footage, and we couldn't work out what it was other than it resembled a very big cat. Just a few days later, a second video showing what is presumably the same animal emerged online. It was followed earlier this week by yet a third piece of security camera footage, which captured the creature in and around the community. This last sighting may be the most dramatic of them all, as the big cat can be seen walking near a parked car, which provides some perspective as to the size. Okay, it's coming down to parked cars. Time to take it seriously. You imagine coming out at night, you turn around and you see this cat. Go ahead and play the video. This is a big cat.
Rather sizable means this.
Yes, this will take you down. It's more than rather sizable. It's sizable.
This cat could eat you.
Look at it. Look how big it is compared to that car. Like it probably looking for food. Or because everybody's in lockdown, it's getting curious.
Yeah.
Maybe. Less noise, less people. It's like, hey, maybe I'll go take a look at what that is going on down there.
Yeah, that's one big cat.
Yeah, that's not a kitty cat. That is a should be in a zoo somewhere, maybe, or not. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to run into that in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's a huge cat.
Was that Ian McDowell's movie Cats or Cat People? That was such a screwed up movie, but I loved it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Cat People, remember that? The guy's like had to sleep with his sister or something. It was a messed up movie. Yeah, but that's what I think of when I see his cats in there. You know, it's Ian McDowell. Cats, he's looking for his sister. Go recommended 1980s movie Cat People.
Yeah.
Messed up. Okay. All right. Where were we? That was number 3. All right. Number 4. UFO fleet over Harrisburg. Now, I'll tell you what I think it is. I think some of you people are going to guess what I think it is, but I'll try to keep it open mind. Maybe, I don't know. I am not an expert. Here we have some raw footage. This is from UFOSightings.daily.com. Here we have some raw footage of some lights in the sky over the city of Harrisburg. The lights are moving around in circular patterns, which means they are not Chinese lanterns or balloons. I beg to differ. These objects create even space between each other and follow on another. This is 100% proof there are aliens over Harrisburg. All right, go ahead and play it. I've seen Chinese lanterns go up and look like this. They can circle a little bit when the wind takes them. You can almost see one of them kind of fly up to join the group. They'll catch a pattern and hang there for a while. I've seen it. Or it's drones. I don't know. Or it's aliens. It's possible. I think they're Chinese lanterns. The flicker, everything. I think it is. See how it's floating up. They're reaching a certain stratosphere there, or not stratosphere, but they're reaching a certain height with the heat that they're generating from the candle inside.
I think it looks like lanterns.
Yeah. They say because they're circling. They'll float and circle. Go do some Chinese lanterns, man. I've seen it.
Let's do it.
They are pretty. But the glow of them, look at that. That looks like a Chinese lantern. I've seen a lot of people sharing this around, saying it's a triangle UFO and a fleet of UFOs. I don't think so. I really think the light of them alone looks like a Chinese lantern. There's even that kind of glowing flicker. I see that. I see it. Looks like a triangle UFO. Maybe it's drones that are doing that. But I mean, it could also be just happens that they line up that way and it looks like they're triangle.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know. But you see that when you get close to it, the way it flickers in the light, it looks like a candle. It looks like a Chinese lantern. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert.
Meep mop.
All right. Let's see. Where was number 4? Let's move to number 5. All right. So I have a fascination ever since I had Terry Lovelace on with triangle UFOs. I've never seen one. I've seen my UFO was a big rectangular ship I saw. But reading Incident at Devil's Den by Terry Lovelace, I've had a fascination since then with anything to do with triangle UFOs. I should send him this article. On Wednesday, the debrief's Tim McMillan gave us a most detailed look at, and we got all this information coming out right now, the Pentagon's ongoing research of unidentified flying objects. UFOs are what the government refers to as unidentified aerial phenomenon. We call them UFOs. Just make it simple. Publicly announced earlier this year, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force is run out of the Office of Naval Intelligence. Its mission is to detect, analyze, catalog UFOs. I can confirm the accuracy of McMillan's story, the previously unreported Navy UFO encounter in late 2019. Sorry, I cannot talk. And is a description of the task force intelligence reports from 2018 to 2020. And the government's been unable to positively identify the UFOs recorded on videos by Navy aviators we've shown here. There was one, the 2004 video, the 2015 video. The videos were first published, of course, New York Times in 2017. Well, now the interesting thing that's coming out, there's more details coming out. There's a 2020 report that came out, which is most striking, shared very widely across civilian and military intelligence communities. It includes an extraordinary photograph taken in late 2019 of a triangle-shaped UFO. So all these other ones, and this is the best I have of it. I think there's a really good photo of it out there. I want to see it. If you know where the photo is they're talking about, I don't know if it's been released to public. I don't think this is it. This was just from their article. The photograph was taken by an FA-18 fighter jet operating off the U.S. East Coast. According to the report, the triangle UFO rose out of the Atlantic Ocean, rapidly accelerated out of sight on a vertical axis. Now, this next one, I don't know if it's related. We got an article that's coming after this. I don't know if this is the same thing they're talking about, but they're trying to confirm this story. It came either was flying out of the USS Dwight Eisenhower or the USS John C. Stennis. There's talk of a major clear UFO triangle footage. It's not this picture here. This is just from the article. I'd love to know what it is. Now, it could be this next article. I don't know. Because then after I found that, then this has been going around. This is really interesting. And this has got to be around this. Let's see if it was around the same time period. I think it was. All right. So this I got from Unexplained Mystery. Leaked Pentagon UFO photograph emerges. This is article, where are we on? 6, I think. Yeah, this one. Here you go. An intriguing image of a mysterious silver object hovering motionless in the sky has been published online. Back in August, it was confirmed the U.S. government had launched a new program known as we were just talking about, the UAP Task Force, which aims to bolster existing efforts to investigate unidentified aerial phenomenon. Most recently, we've been starting to hear more about what the new task force is involved in, and now an actual photograph of something strange in the sky has been leaked and published online. According to the brief, the image, which shows an unidentified silver object hanging in the air, has been widely distributed in the intelligence community. It was reportedly taken by the backseat weapon system operator of the FA-18 fighter jet using their personal mobile phone. So this guy took this on a mobile phone. I just have the image from the article. You can get this on unexplainedmysteries.com. There's more photos. You get the original photo, and you see it's like it's still pretty sizable without the blow up. They put the blow up in front of what it looks like, but it's pretty cool to see it out of the cockpit. I would not want to be the fighter jet in that cockpit taking that picture, though. Again, I do not want to see a UFO when I'm in a plane. Maybe a fighter jet, because if I'm gonna go down, I want to go down swinging. At least I got missiles and guns, right? On the fighter jet, nah. You know you're gonna lose, but at least I would go down swinging, right? Yeah. I played enough Ace Combat. No, I'd be screwed. Labeled unclassified for its official use only, the image seemed to be consistent with other leaked reports of unidentified silver cube-shaped objects spotted hovering motionless over the ocean. See, I don't think this is the same one they're talking about, which is this. There's a triangle one I want to see they're talking about that's out there. I think it's going to come out next. While it's not clear exactly where this was taken, the photographs was thought to have been snapped in the East Coast. So see, this says 2018. There's a 2019 one. See, we're on, when we first got this leaks in 2017, we were talking about footage that came out in 2005, 2004, and maybe 2015. Now we're talking about footage that came out in 2019, 2020, when the public's more aware of it and the government's starting to leak it. I don't know if it's sole disclosure or are we being invaded?
Yeah.
Something's going to go down.
That's kind of a creepy looking one. Little, like, looks like it's got
I'm looking at it on my phone here, and I'm going to blow it up, see if I can look at it.
Like serrated edges on it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's weird. I couldn't, it's hard and people can't see it on you can see it, a little blow up photo of it, and then the one in what it looks like to the pilot looks pretty sizable, but it's hard to say. But what would be up there like that? Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to hear their radio conversation, what they were talking about in that cockpit when they saw that.
Exactly.
Like, should we fly away from it or get closer?
There are a few F-balls coming out. What?
Well, he took a photograph of it. I want to know where did it fly or did it move? I want to hear from the pilots. Of course, we won't. I'm sure they were classified.
Yeah, nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah, move along. All right, well, let's move on to the last scene. This is what we're either getting invaded by UFOs and aliens or China's going to kill us all. All right, intelligence director claims China has gene-edited super soldiers. Yes, this is from mysteriousuniverse.org from Paul Seaburn himself. China gets plenty of news coverage lately due to the coronavirus and its ongoing mission to the moon, but it may not want the publicity being generated by the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, who claimed in an interview this week that China is actively conducting gene editing on members of its military with the goal of creating super soldiers with the capabilities now only seen in the movie. Is it true? Now, hold on. Remember a month or two ago, I talked about this with China experimenting on people with DNA and gene sequencing. They're talking about them experimenting on prisoners. Well, here now we got our intelligence director saying, yes, they are. They are experimenting, trying to create super soldiers. Should we be worried? Is it too late? Or is this a smokescreen to hide our own experiments? Yeah, we're doing it too. We're doing it too.
Oh, yeah.
You know it. U.S. intelligence shows that China has even conducted human testing on members of the People's Liberation Army in the hope of developing soldiers with biologically enhanced capabilities. There are no ethical boundaries to Beijing's pursuit of power. Yeah, they don't have ethics like that. An exclusive article, the Wall Street Journal, titled "China is the national security threat number one." I agree. Ratcliffe presents his concerns and defends the article's subtitle. Resisting Beijing's attempt to reshape and dominate the world is the challenge of our generation, calling the findings of U.S. intelligence the greatest threat to democracy and freedom worldwide since World War II. Ratcliffe presents his case that China's goal is world domination. Anything it says to the country contrary is only a layer of camouflage to the activities of the Chinese Communist Party. Agreed 100% on that. Other articles covering Ratcliffe's op-ed point out that China has talked about biological dominance or command superiority in biology, like the Great Aryan Race and Nazis. Yeah, you learn from history, China. Before, but the context has been in the biological warfare or biological protection of soldiers from enemy biological weapons or backlash from their own. So, we had our guest on talking about China and biological weapons a couple weeks ago. Needless to say, the speculation is I think it was last week, has often been that at least some of these experiments and tests have been done without the knowledge of the soldiers. We have no room to talk as a country. We've done this to our soldiers. Don't get all indigent without looking in the mirror of your own military first. Thank you. See, Paul knows. As expected, the gene editing technique most often referred to in these articles and studies has been CRISPR or CRISPR, which is the Chinese have confirmed multiple cases to have used in editing human embryos and bringing them to the term, with babies probably in their infancy by now. Of course, super soldiers raised from super babies is now a short-term solution, but the Chinese are well known for thinking long-term. Yeah, they'll grow these kids. So if they're just doing this now, 20 years from now, we're going to have Khan from Star Trek. If anybody's a Star Trek fan, they were gene-edited super soldiers, and they happened in World War III. Again, China, the sci-fi fiction from America is not a blueprint on what to do. It's a warning. Just like you called your social credit score system computer Skynet. That's not cool. Terminator was a warning. Just like Star Trek's, talking about what the past was, with super soldiers is bad. Don't do it. You're gonna have a bad time. We're all gonna have a bad time. But once this genie's out of the bottle, that's it. And like I said, America's probably doing it too. But maybe not to the extent they are. They literally have no bounds. We got to do it in the real dark. They really don't. They don't have a Congress to worry about seeing anything. They just do it.
Yeah.
So God knows. But hey, we'll have some soldiers with superpowers. That'll be cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get World War III. The thing is, if we have do you really need super soldiers? I mean, this is the thing. By the time these kids will grow up, they might not even be needed because it's going to be robots.
Well, one of the things is, they like to portray themselves as having strong armies, this and that. They're only showing a very small percent of the soldiers that are healthy. The money and everything that gets sent to China, to Korea, all that for the military does not go to the soldiers. They're very malnourished.
They're too many to
They're
feed.
Very weak. They're very small. So they can't even
fight. No.
So I can see
you're thinking North Korea. That's North Korea's army. They're weak. No, Chinese they have some very. Trust me, they have an army that we would not want to go up against because it's a lot larger.
Yeah, but not all the people.
Trouble.
Don't play that. Don't play it. RoboCop gets real bad at if that's that. Don't play that. Don't play that. Last time I played RoboCop, YouTube goes no. Yeah, don't do that. They something to do with RoboCop, maybe because it's predicting the future. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it right there.
But that is it. No, that is it. But of course, RoboCop's a cyborg. I'm talking they're going to go out full out robot. I mean, maybe cyborgs too. You know, we can use these for something.
They don't have to worry about, the medical care afterwards.
See, what worries me is you see that China just came up with their own artificial sun. What would you need that for? I don't know, to burrow underground and like build a human survival shelter underground or something. You need artificial sun. I don't know. You're scaring me, China.
They're already back from the moon collecting moon rocks. They just went up to space the other day, came back already. Got some moon
they get
rocks.
the alien stuff.
But what are they doing up there?
Because they want to see how much of those moon rocks can be used to turn into fuel. That's what's going to happen with the moon. It's going to be mined to hell, and we're going to fight over it. My prediction for the future. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. To next guest, sorry, I'm trying to hook up something here. Being unprofessional. I could do that at the commercial break, right? But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. I do want to say again, I did have something paranormal happen with my dog. My other dog, I talked about dreaming about Bella passing before, seeing it a year before, how it exactly happened. Asia, something weird happened, I'll admit. My son kept on saying he would hear her. That he hears her after she passed this week. He'd hear her noises. She made these grunts and snoring. And, I didn't disbelieve him. I said, okay. Well, later that night when everybody's in bed, I walked in my kitchen where her bed used to be, and I heard her clear as day, heard her sound. And it's hard, but at the same time, it was comforting to know maybe she is still here with us, Yeah. But thank you, everyone, for all your condolences on Facebook for this rough past 3 weeks of losing both my family members, both my dogs. It means a lot. Thank you to everybody who reached out to me. It really does mean a lot. But that's it. We're going to go to our commercial break. Our guest, Alfonso Colasuonno, co-author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn. Yes, we're going to get to talk about unicorns on Paranormal Soup. Finally, you can check that one off. I cannot wait. Is going to be joining us after this commercial break, and we will take your phone calls later in the show. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
Do you like rock and roll? Do you enjoy a good story? Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It will not only entertain you, but intrigue you. What is it about? Well, Thomas is searching for his bandmate and friend in heaven, and in spirit has helped pen this story. He meets an old friend and famous new ones on his afterlife voyage. Midwest Book Review said, Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It's a quirky story by Joyce S. Isaacson and is unique, original, and deftly crafted metaphysical novel that showcases the author's genuine flair for character and narrative-driven entertainment that is simply riveting from first page to last. Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy is now available on tenantpublication.com, amazon.com in paperback and hardcover, and also on Kindle Unlimited. So check it out now. Wish You Were Here, A Rock Fantasy.
Switch to DCS Ranger.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 555.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Alfonso Colasuonno. He's the co-author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn. Alfonso has cultivated a lifelong passion for the paranormal, and among his earliest memories are scouring books of unexplained at his aunt's home during the family gatherings. Upon meeting Vakasha Brenman, Alfonso was able to put his passion to practical use in their joint creation of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn. Love that title. Alfonso was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, but now calls Baltimore his home, which he shares with his wife Lauren and his cat Edie. In his spare time, Alfonso practices Reiki, being inducted in the spiritual practice by renowned Reiki Master Pamela Miles. I might have to ask him a little bit about Reiki too. Now, like I've said, this is our first time getting to really talk. I mean, I'm sure we've had unicorns come up in the subject. It's Paranormal Soup. We go down a lot of different roads, and unicorns have popped up just a little bit. Tonight, we get to talk about them. And for people who might snicker, oh, unicorns, it can't be real. Think about all the other stuff that is out there. I mean, especially when we talk about the question, is Bigfoot a real live creature or is he interdimensional? Well, it's the same argument can be made for the unicorn, just like the dragon. All these creatures exist in all these cultures going way back. Why? That's always been my question. Bigfoot, dragons, unicorns, those are three of the main ones that we have never proved existed, but for some reason they are in every part of our culture and all parts of our history. And then we're going to talk about that tonight. We will take your calls later in the show, but let's go ahead and get to our guests. Welcome to the show tonight, Alfonso. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's great to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I told you before the show, my dog's passed. I know it's not an excuse, but I've been trying to read the book. I've had a lot of time. I also work retail, so it hasn't given me a lot of time. But it's something that's fascinating me. Is the shared creatures of different cultures and throughout all of our ancient past, like the dragon, the Bigfoot, and unicorns. They're in all these different mythologies going back to Sumerian for unicorn. Yep. I mean, unicorn probably takes the cake even over the dragon when it comes to how ancient it is.
Yeah, I was stunned really when I started working on this project with my co-author Vakasha Brenman. I had no idea. This is sort of one of the reasons to take this project on with Vakasha. Is I knew so little about the unicorn compared to so many other topics in the paranormal, supernatural, and this had always been kind of a blind spot. So when she was looking for a writer, it was great to just sort of to learn about something new. And I had no idea just about how far back the history of the unicorn had went to ancient Sumer, to ancient Egypt, to China about 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Early civilizations in this valley. This was all an education for me, and that was one of the most fun things about writing this book.
Now, I mean, before this book, you're a writer, but you didn't write anything on the paranormal, correct?
No. When I first started really taking writing in as a serious career, I was more influenced by more realism kind of writers like Raymond Carver and a lot of Southern Gothic tradition like Flannery O'Connor and Carson McCullers. I wanted to write, kind of short stories and books about just kind of the heartbreak of America, basically, and just people, struggling. I didn't come from much. I came from a working class background. I wanted to kind of, show that. But life has a way of taking you in a different direction. And I'd always been interested in the paranormal from an early age, UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot investigations, all these things. But the unicorn, I didn't really know anything about it. So again, when I heard that my co-author was looking for a good writer to work with her on this, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to write something on a passion, but just not something that I really thought to do as a career.
Well, you sure really dived into it. Like for somebody who had never written anything about the paranormal, you went right for the most mythical, but you know what? I mean, it is really fascinating. Maybe my fascination, I was telling Jamie before the show, when I was a little kid, one of my favorite movies, Ridley Scott, Legend. Have you ever seen that with Tom Cruise? I get picked on for liking that movie. My wife loves that movie too. So it's one of the things we share. I love that movie. And, for me to ever go see it, you've never seen Legend, you should see Legend. We're talking about unicorns tonight. After the show, you should just go watch Legend. I plan on it. I got my special edition DVD ready to go because that to me is my first. That was as a little kid, always saw unicorns and stuff. Every kid does, but that was like my first understanding of a unicorn, and dark and light, and the magic of the horn. I mean, so much there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. There's a lot of movies. That's another thing that I kind of really didn't realize as I was writing the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn, and going through the research. It's just how big a topic this has been for pop culture. You're talking about movies like The Last Unicorn. I've always liked a little bit of slapstick. So when I found out Three Stooges featured a unicorn in one of their movies, I had a real laugh with my co-author about that one. And all sorts of fiction and music. I mean, you're talking even top musicians like Lady Gaga and 2 Chainz. This has just been a real source of inspiration.
John Anderson from Yes, that did the music for Legend, is a believer in fairies and unicorns, big time.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that, but there's always more to learn about this, and that's why I tell anyone who after read the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn, if we miss something, I want this to be a continuing conversation. I want to do that for my co-author, Vakasha, who's deceased. If you found information about the unicorn that just we kind of missed in this book, our website's theunicornbook.com, and just shoot me a message there. There's a contact form. I always like to learn more and just learn more about things that we might have missed.
Might be a sequel.
Maybe, or there's a few different editions. So,
well, let's talk about Vakasha, because I mean, how did this connection happen? Like, between you two, and what how long had she been working on trying to find a writer to make this book happen?
That's a great question. Vakasha had started this book in the early 1990s, and she had hired a woman, Artist Boyd, to basically collect a lot of research. She went to Manly P. Hall's Philosophical Research Society. She, went to gather information from the Rosicrucians, all throughout New York Public Library and other libraries throughout North America, just finding information about the unicorn. And then, life kind of took her in a different direction. Artist was a writer, but she was mostly a researcher, and Artist had started work on some different entrepreneurial ventures and couldn't work with the project. And Vakasha, without having that writer, to work with, she had to table it for a while. And in fact, it was 20 years she tabled it from 1995 when her and Artist parted ways. And but Vakasha had spent her whole life, as the head of the Unicorn Archive, as her life's passion. And it took a real kind of convoluted series of events to bring us together. And I'm glad it did. For me, how I met Vakasha, it started with a romantic relationship. I'd been having some sort of, minor health issues. Told my girlfriend at the time, and she said I should go to an energy healer that she frequented, a woman by the name of Stephanie Erdang in New York City. And I had never gone to an energy healer before, but she did some amazing work. And once I started going to her regularly, and I told her, I'm a writer, and around 2015 or 14, I had come on a dry period in terms of like new assignments. And she told me, hey, there's someone you might want to meet. And so I met Vakasha. I went to her home. We started talking about the unicorn. We started talking about just about everything. And it was just a great match. I knew she was someone I could work with. And just, again, the unicorn had just completely, escaped my radar. So I love a good challenge, and I wanted to learn, really kind of delve into this topic and learn about it. So between having a partner who is just really committed and hardworking and fun, and a topic that I knew literally nothing about, I really wanted to just dive in, and I'm really glad I did.
Well, what was Vakasha's obsession with unicorns? What made her so interested in unicorns?
Well, she would always tell me that you can't deny something you see with your own eyes. And when she was a little girl growing up in North Carolina, she saw a unicorn when she was young. I think it was around 6 or 7 on her family's farm. And when you see that unicorn directly, it really kind of provokes a question, because so much of our society, it's so skeptical. So many things that haven't yet been proven by traditional kind of scientists or other sort of arbiters of the culture. If they say it doesn't exist, a lot of people just go with the party line. But she was always just a really independent spirit. That's one of the reasons I really loved her and love her still. And just seeing that unicorn from an early age, it just provoked a lifelong real passion.
I know that
for the
feeling.
creature. Yeah,
I know that feeling. I was talking about it, at the beginning of the show, is that when I was a young kid, I saw a green floating I had a witness. Luckily, I didn't see it alone. My cousin was a month younger than me. We were both 4, maybe 5, but I believe we were really young. But we had spent the night together, and we both saw a green floating head come flying through the room. And I never forgot it. And my cousin thought it was a dream until I brought it up when we were like 13. He got really white. And he's like, I thought that was a dream. I'm like, no, I was there with you. We saw it. It changed my perspective to believe anything's possible. Anything's real. That's why I've been fascinated by the paranormal. I read in your bio, you would read your aunt's paranormal books where, remember those unexplained mystery books? Like those,
absolutely. I remember all those. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I was all into that as a kid. Cause to me, my perception was totally open and accepting it. Sounds like that was for you. Did you have your own paranormal experiences as a child?
Not as a child, actually. My first paranormal experience, I was working for not really a nonprofit, but a startup where we were trying to recover art that was stolen by the Nazis during World War II and return it to the rightful owners. Really big, ambitious goal that we're still trying to do. Yeah. It's called Old Forgotten Art Found, but we just need to secure a little bit more funding for that. But I was just going off I was living in New York City at the time, and I was just going on the subway, heading toward the subway, I should say, to just interview some new people to kind of improve the team. I was doing a lot of human resources recruiting for the organization at the time. And around that time, I started hearing a lot about chemtrails. So I started getting fixated with that. Every time I would go outside, I started looking at the skies. And of course, I saw a ton of chemtrails, but I wouldn't really call anything supernatural about that. But what I did see, it was my first supernatural experience. I must have been about 29 or 30, so it's a little late for the first one. But I saw it. Yeah, sometimes better late than never, right?
Right.
So I saw this. I wouldn't call it a UFO because it wasn't flying, but it was a cube-shaped object, and it was the strangest thing. It just started dematerializing and rematerializing in the air. And I observed it for about 6 minutes. It's kind of like if anyone listening or watching has an old-fashioned dimmer switch, for lights in their house, and you turn that dimmer switch, it would slowly dematerialize and rematerialize. And I honestly I was too shy to tell anyone, like, hey, what are you seeing here? Because this is Brooklyn, New York. This is busy. There's lots of people there, and no one's freaking out about it. But I didn't say that because of shyness, and just a lot of people don't really believe.
Yeah, you and a lot of others.
Even seeing a lot of things before your eyes, they're still not going to believe it. So, and I had work to do. We had a mission to do right by that project. So I couldn't just stay on the streets in New York watching this object. But that was the first time I saw one, and I had my second really unexplained event happened shortly thereafter. Once I started working with Vakasha in their home.
Oh, really? And so Vakasha, she obviously was a very spiritual person.
Very, yes.
Yeah, and she passed away this last May. Yes. So this is, you kind of helped her, in the end, bring together probably some of her life's work and got it out there before it was over. So this is a pretty incredible experience you had getting to work with her on this. So yeah, tell us about how that went when you guys first started to get together, write this book, and some of the weirdness that went on.
When I first started working with Vakasha, I was still very skeptical about the unicorn. Even having seen that object in the sky and being aware about other things, I'm still not really sure if this is just a fun project or something real. And Vakasha told me because of her mobility issues and a lot of other health-related challenges, she really needed her co-writer to live with her. So I basically spent about half my time with her in her apartment in New York for about 3 years as we were writing and editing this book, and then getting it to market with John Hunt Publishing. One of the first things she told me when I started living with her is people who come to my house are known to have encounters with the unicorn. And I was right.
Yeah, but you're gonna come here. You might have an encounter with a unicorn. And I mean, at that point, when you first hear somebody say that to you, and do you go, "Oh, what did I get myself into?" Was that a feeling?
No, it wasn't that. It was just I was just so psyched to be on this project, and she was such a cool woman, and I wanted to learn so much more about it that I just didn't want to like slip into a little bit of sarcasm, because I didn't want her to say like, "Hey, there's a million other writers, take your place." So I just kept my mouth shut, and sure enough, actually, it was like about 10 days into living with Vakasha. I went to bed pretty early, and I woke up about 3 hours later, and it was the weirdest thing. I started seeing the unicorn's horn. It was
just the horn,
just the horn, not the full unicorn, but the horn just materialized before my eyes. I was not sleeping, not lucid dreaming, nothing like that. And it was multicolored, it was spiraled, and it appeared before me. And when I told her the next day, she was like completely unsurprised. And any skepticism that I had, already knowing that there's such a long tradition from all these different cultures, these different spiritual traditions, different time periods, I realized like maybe the unicorn had to appear before me, because if you want to have a co-writer who's actually going to write an amazing book and tell a story, well, maybe we need to get over this little bit of doubt first. And let's show them, at least show them the unicorn horn.
Show him the unicorn horn. I mean, it's like, I'm a big fan of Carlos Castaneda's Don Juan. It's like he needs, he has to take psychedelic mushrooms and have the trip to experience the, Don Juan. It's like you have to experience Vakasha's reality. She believes in unicorns. She needs you to believe. You had to see it. That's amazing. So it was glowing, like floating in front of you.
Not floating. It was kind of stationary, but it started appearing directly. Kind of slowly, almost like an unsheathing. And I was just amazed when I saw it. I mean, I almost got kind of, there's an interesting story that we have in the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn, about an emperor in ancient China who, the unicorn, the full unicorn actually in his case, appeared before him as a middle-aged man. And he spent the rest of his life trying to have that second appearance, come from the unicorn. And it was kind of, his white whale almost, because the unicorn never appeared. The unicorn, that's one of the things that everyone really should know, is the unicorn is very elusive. So that's why you don't, exactly. You don't see it every day. So it was really kind of, in all seriousness, a privilege, I feel, that the unicorn revealed itself to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't hear people saying I had a unicorn sighting very often, but that's what I find really interesting about your book, is the historical references to great leaders. Honestly, I mean, I think Alexander the Great, Confucius. Trying to remember who else. I mean, we're talking some major players in in world history, having sightings or these experiences. You talked to an emperor in China. I mean, having seen a unicorn in all parts of the different world. It's not like they're all watching the same TV shows. These people don't have communications with each other like that. They all had these experiences.
Yeah, they all did. And one thing that I also wonder about is just thinking about what evidence we did find, whether it's Alexander the Great or Confucius or any of these other, Julius Caesar, any of these other historical leaders. And, it's the same kind of point with this information we found from these ancient cultures as well, is you got to think about it. Like nowadays, anyone, you just Google someone's name and you'll find out pretty much their life story. If you go back really more than 200 years, and I'm being very conservative with that, the only information you're going to find from people are people who've really moved world events forward for good or ill. So, when you think about all these historical figures having encounters with the unicorn, you have to wonder about how many ordinary people did as well, and their stories are just lost in the dustbin of history. So
that's a great point. I mean, it could be that we're just not hearing about it because, like, you seen your UFO and you kept quiet about it. Are you going to see a unicorn and walk into work? I saw a unicorn. Yeah, I mean, I think you get away with the UFO thing better than the unicorn thing. You might be in trouble with people.
Probably. I mean, it depends on the corporate culture. I've worked with some pretty great, kind of free spirited people. So. But yeah, in a little bit more, a little bit more strict organizations, you might get some askance looks. That's for sure.
You might be cool in the offices of Google or something, yelling out, "I saw a unicorn!"
Amazing.
Like, yeah, man, But yeah, most places, my work, they'd be like, They even know I'm weird, and they wouldn't buy that unicorn thing. But I do. I believe people when they say they have these experiences. Like I said, I saw that green floating head. It changed my perspective. I believe anything's possible. I think unicorn's possible. Now, what we're talking about here is something from what I take from the book is it's not we talk the Bigfoot debate on this show we've had several times about, is it interdimensional or is it a physical creature? That's been the big debate in the Bigfoot community over the last decade or so, or longer, actually. But for the unicorn, it seems like you guys, at least you and Vakasha, are the sense that this thing's not a physical creature. It's dimensional.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question because while it's definitely interdimensional, when it comes into our dimension, into our reality, it does have a physical presence. I mean, there are stories of how unicorn horns started getting sold and disseminated and used widely.
Right.
So, it's not like it can come when it comes in to our dimension that it's a mirage or some sort of like hologram or anything like that. But its natural home is definitely in higher dimensions than ours. We found this great document, actually, that was a real boon for us as we were writing this book, that told of a legend of how the unicorn kind of had this interdimensional status. And it really kind of ties in with its love for humanity. It was given a choice by the creator to basically stay in that higher dimension. I mean, none of us would be talking about the unicorn right now because we wouldn't have seen it. There'd be no legend about it. But because the unicorn loved humanity and loves humanity so much, it can pop in basically on an as-needed basis. So, it doesn't come very often, at least as far as we found. But when it does, it's often tied to some pretty important events.
This book you're talking about, this is the Gnostic text, right? From the group of Gnostics. What group was it? Was this the Cathars or no? Who was this that wrote this book?
It was I believe it was a 14th century Italian Gnostic sect, and they've been guarding this information for a while. I think it's the Collegium Gnosticum, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And they've been holding on to this information for a while. An author by the name of Robert Greene publicized this, and we spoke directly with him on a lot of to get more information about this material. He was just he is a wonderful person, and he was incredibly helpful towards sharing more about this legend with us. And information.
Well, I heard one of your researchers. Sorry, I have to fix something here on my show. I'm sorry, I got a technical problem. Right. One of your researchers, you said, went to the Rosicrucians, right?
Yeah.
So did they have some of these ancient texts too about the unicorn?
That's a really good question. I don't know directly if they had any ancient texts at the Rosicrucians or Manly Hall's Philosophical Research Society. I did know that their librarians gave us access to a lot of different sources that have been, previously published on the unicorn. And there's not too many, actually, before our book. And, many of the books that are out there, if you go searching on Amazon or something about unicorn, are generally geared directly towards children. And that's great. But, they're not really going into historical records or trying to uncover the truth of this. And we really wanted to just really kind of summarize everything. And a lot of this material is very hard to find. So between the later research that Vakasha and I did and the research that, decades ago that Artis and Vakasha did, we found a lot of things that, as far as we know, have not been in any other book about the unicorn or any other article, periodical, anything. And
You'd think an anthropologist or somebody would, want to look at. This is what I said about the dragon itself too. These ancient mythologies that expand across the whole world. I mean, even Native Americans had their own form of a unicorn. I mean, it's everywhere with people who are supposed to have no contact with each other, going back into their ancient past.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most interesting thing about it. And what besides the experience that I had directly, seeing it before my own eyes, is nowadays we live in a globalized, interconnected world, but that was not the case 5,000, 4,000 years ago. So I could understand if we had started writing this book and everything just traced to Sumer. That would be like, okay, maybe they're mistaking an antelope or a rhinoceros or an oryx or something like that. Maybe they're just getting that wrong, and it was a initial kind of error, and and it turned into something else. But when we see so many different cultures throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa mostly, but also into North America and South America, and then we see all different religions, all the major religions. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, all in different ways have a tradition, with the unicorn. And we look at it across all time periods, really until last 100 or so, 150 years. That's a lot of people that would have to get, you'd have to basically say a lot of different cultures, a lot of different spiritual traditions, and a lot of different time periods. The people would have to continuously get it wrong. And that's just kind of strains credibility, I think, and plausibility. So, I mean, I think that makes the case right there for the existence of the unicorn.
Well, let's talk about like some of the let's go way back. I mean, what like Sumerian culture? What was the unicorn for them? I mean, was it did they base the foundation what all unicorns would be? Did it come from them? That's my question. If you go back to the earliest foundations of civilization, if Sumerians had it, do you think there's any possibility it spread from Sumeria to China, or they again independently got it on their own? What was first off, compared to the modern day, people picture a white horse with the horn and even sometimes wings. What was the Sumerian unicorn? Just to start with that.
Well, Sumerian unicorn, there's not many documents that really kind of talk about it. What we found mostly were art depicting the unicorn. So as to what its symbolism means to them, I mean, that's really a question of interpretation. But when you talk about where it may have spread from, there is some degree of spread coming mostly from South Asia, from modern day India. There's two major traditions, two basic legends that are tied to the unicorn. One's called the Holy Hunt, and one is called the water conning story. The water conning story is essentially a unicorn using its horn to purify poisoned waters for other animals to drink safely. And the Holy Hunt is basically about a young woman, a virgin or a maiden, luring a unicorn for its demise. And this legend started in India. The earliest records we found were tied to the Indian subcontinent. Then we started seeing about a few centuries later in the Middle East, through the Assyrians, kind of taking these legends. And then about a millennia after, we started seeing them really be widely promulgated in Europe. So there, in that particular case, about some of the major myths that people associate with the unicorn, I would say it's clear to say that that's traced to India. But as to the unicorn and the overall legend, I didn't find any evidence through the course of co-writing this book that would indicate that it started from one particular location.
Right.
And that was probably the most interesting thing about it.
Well, Sumeria, we're talking 6,000, 7,000, maybe 10,000 years ago. Well, China had it, 6,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago? Let's talk about let's talk, because they have a really ancient tradition for when it goes back to the unicorn. Let's talk about China and Asia. What was the unicorn there?
I mean, one of the, we could start seeing the first references in China with the beginning of their civilization about 5,000 years ago. But it goes back even further than that. If you look at some of the ancient Chinese religion, the unicorn, like the dragon, the phoenix, and the tortoise, has always been a sacred animal in Chinese culture, and they call it the qilin.
Qilin?
The qilin, yes. So when they say qilin, that they mean the unicorn. It's kind of just the nomenclature they use. for it. But those four sacred animals, again, including the unicorn, were working directly with Pangu, who is basically analogous to God or the creator. And they were working together with Pangu to basically chip away at the nothingness to create our universe. And so, we could talk about 5,000, 6,000 years ago from China and these other cultures, but according to both Western and Eastern legends, the unicorn comes back to, at least the beginning of humanity, but, definitely before that, if you look at this Chinese legend.
Well, yeah, it's their creation story. Now, back to what was the name of the book, the Gnostic book? What is that called again?
It's called the Codex Unicornis. Codex
Unicornis. I found that really interesting. Gnostic ideas, and I got really interested in my early 20s in Gnosticism, and they're kind of, even like they were predecessors to Carl Jung's archetypes in a way. Like they saw like the way consciousness worked is really interesting. What was their kind of creation story with the unicorn? What does this book tell you about why the unicorn's here, or creation, Adam and Eve?
Yeah, and it goes actually back to Adam and Eve. So according to this Gnostic text, the unicorn was with Adam and Eve in this paradise. And they basically, were in this higher dimension, basically no suffering, pure joy. But humanity had to learn its lesson. And when the fall came and humanity was basically dipped down to our dimension anyone could say there's amazing joy and incredible experiences. We all have them, but we also have, every one of us has suffering, in our life.
That's what Buddhism teaches you. Life is suffering. It's one of the Four Noble Truths.
Yes. And because, there's such an immense amount of suffering in this life, it can be hard to deal with. And, and it's a heavy energy when you're faced with that suffering. And I want to express my condolences to you, Jason, for your two, dogs. I mean,
thank you.
It's horrible to deal with, when pets, they're family members.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we have that suffering, it can be so difficult to deal with. And a lot of people want to be away from it. I mean, just think about the person who's suffering. A lot of people kind of shun them just because, you don't want to deal with that energy.
That is so true. That is so true. No, that is so true, people. It's a sad fact. I mean, I'll admit it. I've cut myself doing that. I'm guilty of it too, because it is an energy. It's like, you don't know what to say or help. There's nothing you can say or do to help. Yep. And you just want to get away from it. I understand that. I've felt it. Yeah. That's a horrible feeling when you realize you're doing it.
Exactly. And it's tough because, especially when people that you know or are close to are suffering, but you can't help them in any way. It's tough to deal with it. And you want to be there for them, but it's still it taxes you. And, and it's the same for the unicorn. So the creator, according to this Gnostic legend, gave the unicorn a choice. It could stay in this pure bliss of a higher dimension, this Edenic paradise, where it didn't have to feel any of this dense vibration and the challenges that come with this life. Or it could come in as our friend when needed, when called upon, whether in opportune moments or, at any other time. And the unicorn basically took that because it cared about humanity. It cared about us so much that it was willing to, dip in to this much denser environment, this much harder environment, where there is suffering and there is pain and there is joylessness. There's a lot of great things too, but there's some tough energies that all of us have to deal with in life, and all of creation has to deal with when they're here.
So it's like what I love about Gnosticism is the way, it reminds me of two, one of these monks, whoever wrote this 600 years ago or whatever, they felt it was important enough that the unicorn was important enough to make a creation text about this, to describe what they believe happened in creation with Adam and Eve, and you say eidetic paradise. They're talking about the Garden of Eden, right? Basically in the Bible, this, and I've always wondered, is that some kind of higher dimension that humans were created in and brought down out of that dimension here? That a lot of spiritual talk about that. But yeah, what other creatures were there? Was it there was obviously other creatures there. I think in the Bible the unicorn's mentioned like 9 times or 10 times. Which is interesting in itself. Again, a creature that we've not proven exist physically is being mentioned in some of our oldest texts, even including the Bible.
Yes, that was something that really kind of stunned me. I mean, I had read the Bible in its entirety before, but I guess it kind of just kind of escaped my memory. But that was one of the first things I saw when Vakasha, gave me her research, her and Artist's research to review, and I saw those 9 references in the Bible. I went, cross-referenced it with my own Bible just to make sure that there weren't any errors in the research. And there's there's a long tradition in Europe of the unicorn being compared to Jesus Christ. There's if you go to Judaism, there's a lot of legends not only in the Bible but also in the Talmud. In Islam, there are tears of the Karkadam. These are prayer beads that are still used to this day in Iraq for Muslim prayer. In Hinduism, there's many different one-horned avatars of Vishnu, one of the major gods in Hinduism. And in Buddhism, I mean, Siddhartha Gautama's mother, Maya, the unicorn appeared to her before, his birth. So when you think about the 5 most prominent religions to this day, with all of them having deep ties to the unicorn, it just kind of blows your mind.
Well, I mean, if there's other entities, there's interdimensional entities, which I believe there is. They can take many shapes or forms. It's an avatar to come to this scene, and that person, there could be a certain energy form that likes to, when it comes to our physical reality, looks like a unicorn. I don't know. But the other thing I've always found interesting about the unicorn and thought about it, I mean, is the horn. Maybe it's because my fascination, with legend, the horn, its magical properties and that, but it's also, I mean, just to be honest, it's one of the many phallic symbols of, like obelisk and things that humanity obsessed with, or men obsessed with their penises. I don't know, but there seems to be a lot of stuff surrounded about the phallicism of the horn, but some people also say it's about the third eye. What do you think is the whole purpose of the horn, or what its true meaning?
I mean, I would lend more towards the third eye than phallic symbolism from it. I mean, yeah, you could definitely see that could definitely go into your mind. But when it comes to the third eye, I think that's really kind of where that the horn kind of goes into. And I think a lot of people can fall into that trap because there are so many stories of the unicorn's horn being used for healing. Everything from the common cold to even raising the dead. And so I think it's almost like, in a lot of esoteric circles, there's a lot of misinformation. I don't agree with this practice, but there's a lot of misinformation, presented to people who are not inducted into these groups or into this information. So I think there might be, it might be sort of almost a bit of a trap in terms of people getting so fixated on the mundane of health issues. And, we all will face health challenges in our time. I mean, now more than ever, I think people are starting thinking about that with COVID-19. But
you got the COVID beard. You got the COVID beard.
Yeah, it's been growing for a few months now, so I figure now's a good time to grow it. But yeah, but people
unicorn horn.
Just got to get a unicorn horn growing out of the forehead now too. I don't know if I'd look more like a goat than a unicorn with that, but yeah, people I think could get caught up because no one likes to be sick. No one likes, especially if it's a severe illness. I think people have been caught up in the history of healing aspects of the horn, but there's deeper transformative aspects to it and to the unicorn towards transformation and elevation of the soul. And so I think it's almost like a challenge, like the unicorn laying down the gauntlet to those who, try to learn more about it and try to interact with it or call to it. are you going to just basically be thinking about the mundane, like, oh, I've got the sniffles, could you help me out here? Or are you going to be thinking about real deep transformation? So that might be. So I definitely think the unicorn horn, it's tied to both the mundane, but I also think that if you really want to be getting to the true meaning, you're going to be looking towards some of the more deeper spiritual lessons.
Well, I know, like, I mean, most people, when I thought of, unicorns, for getting into your book, I really think of like Europe, medieval, times, like, King Arthur, I think, the unicorn coming from that area. I mean, I know royalty would say, claim we have a unicorn horn, and there'd be magicians that say they could cure you with a unicorn horn. What was Europe? That seems to be where, I mean, even it's in the coat of arms for the for England. Let's get into Europe's classic, I guess you could say, what most people think of as a unicorn. What have you learned about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of the few things I did know about the unicorn when I started work with Vakasha on the book Magical Mythical Unicorn. I knew that it was tied to the British through the unification of Scotland and England. I didn't know much more than that. I didn't know that there were legends all throughout Europe of the unicorn, going from Russia. We have a story in the book about a young woman by the name of Katya in current day Crimea. We have stories of the Mediterranean regions of Spain, Italy, and Greece, of people using unicorn horn or other kind of representations of the unicorn to counter the evil eye. We have a lot of stories chasing to actual excavations of unicorn skeletons in Germany. But when you think about Europe, most people, and rightly so, are going to be thinking about the UK. There's a rich tradition there. Basically, King James of Scotland and England used the unicorn and the lion as a symbol of unification when Scotland and England unified, because Scotland had always been, or for a few centuries at the time, had been represented by the unicorn, and England by the lion. So you have these people who were essentially, at enmity at the time, now having to be part of a united kingdom. So it was kind of a way to bridge the two together. And this worked its way into a lot of British heraldry and into, the deepest roots throughout the European continent with the unicorn are definitely in the UK. And some of those stories, if we go back to the unicorn horn, some of those stories of the unicorn horn are effective. But whenever something good comes out, there's always going to be knockoffs. And one of my favorite kind of darkly humorous stories is when you're a king, you kind of have to do what the king says, right? So the King James, actually, the same King James of the King James Bible, actually had been purchased for a large sum of money, what he thought was a unicorn horn. And so he doesn't test the unicorn horn itself, in his food. He has a servant test him. Now, regrettably for that servant, that was not actual unicorn horn, because the servant passed away from poisoned food. But there was a lot of real unicorn horn, but there were also a lot of knockoffs from just profiteers.
So you think some of the unicorn horns were real?
Yes.
That people had. How would they have gotten a unicorn horn? I mean, for an interdimensional being to come here, I mean, did they kill it to take? I mean, I'm thinking of horrible things. Like I said, legend, they cut off the unicorn horn and the thing dies, I mean, how did they get the unicorn horn?
Legend is not too far off. Just from where there's smoke, there's fire, is what I'd say. So when you talked about earlier the legend traveling from India to the Middle East into Europe of the Holy Hunt, I think that this sort of did happen, because people by that time, by the Middle Ages in Europe, it became widespread because of this book called The Physiologist, which was second only to the Bible in terms of popularity. So think about, like, this was the Harry Potter of its day in terms of, not in terms of it being fantasy, but in terms of it being so widely read. And so everyone in Europe who was literate, or even just had heard the tales, knew about the unicorn because of the popularity of The Physiologist. And so from that, if you're some enterprising person who doesn't have many scruples, and you hear that everyone wants the unicorn horn because it can do so many things, and it has such a status for royalty and popes and other leaders, and you're just some nobody, you might
there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
And you might sacrifice your ethics, your scruples, and everything, and you might get a band of people together and attack the unicorn. And because the unicorn is such a peaceful creature, it cannot kill. It physically cannot kill anyone. So if you have someone with ill intent going after the unicorn, it can't just kill it back. The most it could do is just kind of defend itself with non-lethal force. So I don't know why the unicorn would choose not to go back into a higher dimension, but there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, just speculating right here, it could be because of showing proof of its existence. And sometimes you need the horn. Sometimes you were a doubter like I was, and you need something more tangible to kind of prove it. So in that sense, that could be a reason. But yeah, there were real horns. There was a lot of knockoffs that were just total bunk, but there were real horns and horn fragments, mixed in with the knockoffs.
Well, I've heard about the mythology of unicorns, of course, is referencing legend, but like using a virgin, to like draw out the unicorn. Is that kind of what your idea of what they might have done? Is somebody spiritual or a virgin or something to draw the unicorn out of its dimension? Or how would they draw it out of its dimension?
I mean,
like, what does the Holy Hunt say they do?
Yeah, I mean, the Holy Hunt says they used a young woman. My co-author and I talked a little bit about it. When they say virgin, I don't think it has anything to do with sex. I think they just mean a young woman who's pure of heart. So, and in that case, they were just looking. They basically would use a young woman who was very moral, very ethical, and they kind of entrap her into, kind of luring the unicorn. And then once, that kind of trap was spring, they just basically snuck up and just totally, did their dirty business. So I think that's probably how some of the horns came about, since that was the only information we found about how some of the valid horns came to being. So, I mean, people will do a lot of things, to change their life, and just the amount of riches and esteem that could have been gathered from doing this. I think some people will definitely sacrifice their morals, and I think that's probably how it happened.
No question of that.
Yeah,
humanity's riddled. Its history's riddled with people with questionable morals. There's no doubt. Like, if there's a profit to be made, somebody's going to try to make it. If there's a will, there is a way. They're going to do it. And if a unicorn is real and can come into this dimension, somebody, especially back 1,000 years ago or more, when they really believed in it, was going to find a way to get that horn.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a lot less social mobility now. I mean, now we live in pretty amazing times. I mean, you could be dirt poor, and if you work the right way, you could really transform your life. That wasn't really the case 500, 600 years ago. So if you were just really ambitious, but there's just not many options, and you're going to take what you can get. And and again, if morals are if that's what it takes for some people, that's what they did. And I think
look, you mentioned Harry Potter. Look at that. I mean, in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, Voldemort's drinking the blood of the unicorn to extend his life. Yeah. I mean, that's some pretty powerful stuff there. If that was the book that was going around, people would be, bleeding these things out, trying to get, immortal life.
I mean, I don't want to, say this, but I kind of got to say this. Like, you wonder about humanity's moral compass about some things. So, it might be a reason why the unicorn doesn't appear so much in the last 200 years. So, maybe I think a lot of people kind of lost their mooring.
We kill cows just for a good hamburger and a steak. Well, these are, if their horns are giving us eternal life or healing us from poison, or their blood's giving us eternal life, well, they're screwed if they came here physically.
Yeah,
they were here physically. They'd be extinct.
I mean, that would be my thought process. So.
We've heard I Love Robot Chickens made some good unicorn jokes and stuff. I have a clip for that, but them not making it onto the ark, in reality, what they are is something that has never physically been here. Obviously, you talked about them finding skeletal, somebody trying to dig up skeletal remains of it or whatever, but most likely this is not something that's ever physically really ever been here as a species. This is totally an interdimensional alien. I mean, could we call it an alien?
Yeah, you could definitely use that term to define it. I mean, it's definitely not from our dimension. So yeah, if you want to, it's not a gray, it's not, anything like that. But that would be a fair term to use.
Now, I mean, for Vakasha, she had experiences with the unicorn since she was a child. Did she say? I mean, was she still seeing unicorns? Like, was she in communication with unicorns when you were writing this book?
That's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. So she did not see the unicorn, as far as I know. At least she never told me. We were really close. It wasn't just a work partnership. I view her like my spiritual mother, and that's one of the reasons why it's so hard. It's a wonderful feeling that our book's out, but it's also a bittersweet feeling because of how deep our bonds of affection for each other were. But yeah, she, as far as I know, she only saw the unicorn once, and that was when she was a young girl in North Carolina. But she did have a lot of intuitive communication with it. And, honestly, like writing this book, she is an amazing idea person. I think I'm a pretty good writer. And, but, we did some things with this book. We found some things that other authors and article writers who had covered the subject never were able to give a conclusive explanation to. And we feel that the unicorn was guiding us through this entire process, the writing process, to tell its true story. And now is the time where its true story came. And actually, I'm sorry. Actually, this just kind of triggered my memory. The unicorn appeared to her at least twice because she was on her deathbed, basically, in 2015. Oh. And the unicorn came to her and said, "Tell me my story." That was why she was so adamant to get me started, because we had agreed to work together, but I had other projects, and so that was the real impetus to get me to speed up my other things and up to start, because the unicorn was saying now is the time to tell my story, and I truly believe that it guided us. I came from a more traditional writing background of literary fiction and such, and I know how hard it is to get a book published. I've advised people as a publishing consultant. It's very hard to get your book published. I feel like the unicorn guided us to the right publisher. John Hunt Publishing has been amazing for us. Guided us through the writing of it, the editing, the licensing of the 25 plus artworks that we featured here. Neither of us are entertainment lawyers. And we were able to successfully license the art for this book through, I believe, the unicorn guiding us to an amazing woman, Joyce Faust, at Art Resource in New York City to help us with the process. There's just too many synchronicities. I really feel the unicorn directly was guiding us for this book.
And it sounds like you were guided to Vakasha to write this book. We got to go to commercial break. But when we come back, we will open up the phone lines. Do you believe in UFOs? UFOs, yes, I know you do. Do you believe in unicorns? Call in, tell us. Have you had an experience with the unicorn? Or a question for our guest? We still got more of the history I want to talk about too. Some of the great leaders like Confucius, Alexander the Great, some of their experiences. I'd like to talk about that when we come back from the commercial break. But call into the show. We'll have the phone lines open when we come back. All right, guys, it'll be a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Can
Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello, I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Tired of school? Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife?
Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch someone.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Otis.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
I am the Lord of Darkness. I require the solace of the shadows and the dark of the night. Sunshine is my destroyer. All this shall change. Tonight, the sun sets forever. There shall never be another dawn.
You are listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419, or by Skype caller ID OOJBlandOO or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, we're talking to our guest, Alfonso Colasuonno. He is the co-author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn. Yes, we are talking about unicorns tonight. That is the first on Paranormal Soup. I love it. You can say we talk about dragons, Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, Loch Ness Monster, and vampires, unicorns. That's what we're talking about tonight. And you can call in and join this conversation. Phone lines are open, all of them. Just remember, if I hang up on you, it's because I got somebody else on the line. If I do pick up on you, you'll be waiting until I call you. I'll call out your area code or your name if you're on Skype. And you can join the conversation and ask your questions. I'm interested in anybody who's had a unicorn experience. I mean, it seems pretty rare. Probably not. I don't have that big of an audience to probably get some, but I believe people have right now in the modern times. I'm sure there are people, they just didn't tell anybody. Who are you going to tell when you see a unicorn or even just a floating unicorn horn? Who's going to believe you? It's one thing, people have seen X-Files and seen UFOs and aliens. You probably get away with talking about that nowadays. The unicorn, not so much, but people in the past did, and they believed in it and they talked about it. And then we're talking about that history tonight. And it's fascinating how all these cultures, just like the dragon, just like the phoenix, Bigfoot, all these cultures going back in the ancient past shared the unicorn. Where did it come from? Part of our conscious, the archetypes of Carl Jung? I don't know. That's the conversation tonight, but let's get back to our guests. Thank you for sticking around with me, Alfonso. One of the things I was thinking about over the break, we were talking about them hunting, the unicorn, getting the magic horn, and using the virgin or whatever, or the woman to draw it out. It would remind me of another one is the dragon. The dragon would be brought up as, they would bring a sacrifice, a virgin to draw it out, to appease it. Maybe it's like the unicorn's the light side, the good side. And then the dragon's like the dark side. And both of these are shared in all these same cultures.
That's a really interesting point. I mean, one of the most common esoteric principles that I always hear about is that principle of balance, that light and dark and the mixture of both, and how, all of us are a mixture of both, and all of creation is a mixture of both. So I think that's a really interesting point, and one that I've never actually heard expressed. But yeah, there are a lot of similarities between the legends of dragons and the legends of unicorns, and usually, more often than not, the dragon is usually tied as a darker energy, and almost always, when it's accurately depicted, the unicorn tied to a light energy. So kind of an interesting point you brought up there.
And it makes you wonder if they share the same origins, or the same, thing. I mean, I've heard ancient aliens say, dragons are really UFOs in the way they describe them. I believe that could be a valid point, but maybe they were another interdimensional creature, a dragon. It didn't physically exist here really, but it's another force, another interdimensional, maybe from the dark side. I don't know. We do got somebody on the phone line I want to get to. We got Marcus on the line. How you doing tonight, Marcus? Thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Again and again, I keep encountering this penchant of human beings to create, generalizations in the face of some, but not enough evidence. For example, unicorn horns. Modern science has come to the conclusion that the typical unicorn horn, of which examples were known as far back as the Egyptians or the Romans, are in point of fact not unicorns. They belong to a species of whale called the narwhal.
No, the narwhal.
Yeah.
I think of the Christmas
Yeah.
special, the narwhal.
Yeah.
You know, remember the old
Yeah, but-
stop animation Rudolph narwhal? No, never mind. Go ahead.
You're a very bad person, Jason, but that's okay.
I know.
The narwhal was an example of what seemed to be a unicorn horn, long braided, looked like that's the kind of creature would come from. But scientists later discovered that the narwhal was in point of fact an up to 18-foot size medium whale and not a mythical creature at all. This tendency to create mythical explanations of real-life discoveries or events is something that human beings just do. If we don't have an explanation for it, we'll make up something that seems to cover the bases based on the evidence we have right now. And that can get people in a lot of trouble. For example, generalizations about other races or other ethnic groups, like such and such a group of human beings, well, they're naturally inferior because X, Y, Z, and lay out the lines. And your generalization based upon your experience with them may seem to be complete and the truth. Well, slavery evolved to suppress African Americans because of such generalizations. And even the slaveholders knew for a fact, based on their own experience, that slaves, i.e. Black Americans, were not genetically inferior. Educationally, yeah, they might have been deprived of the opportunity, but Eleanor Roosevelt started pushing for the creation of African Americans into what it became known as the Tuskegee Airmen, and confounded the American races to believe that Black people could never master the intricacies of flying powered aircraft. And yet the Tuskegee Airmen accumulated one of the most outstanding records of bravery and combat successfulness in history. And this kind of penchant for jumping to conclusions and drawing conclusions too fast is a personal pitfall. I admit to it. I'm sure everybody else has had in their memory when you're telling the truth to yourself. Yeah, there were explanations that I jumped to. There were beliefs that I foisted off about X, Y, or Z, and it proved not to be the case.
Marcus, before Alfonso jumps in, I want to say this. You know, when you talk about the horns, what they found for the narwhal, and you know, we were talking about a lot of the ancient, not ancient, but European medieval times when they were selling these things like left and right, probably trying to I got unicorn horn here. You know, yeah, they're going to find a way to con people. That's just human nature. But the interesting about the unicorn is that not all the places had narwhals. You know what I'm saying? That they all had this horn being all over culture. It comes from something from our ancient past somewhere. All right, go ahead, Alfonso. I'll let you chime since he's asking you.
Sure. Marcus, that's a great point about the narwhal. And actually, just as you said, there was actually a big tradition, particularly from Denmark, of individuals knowing that there were narwhals in the oceans of the North Atlantic. They would take the tusk of the narwhal, which looked a lot like the unicorn horn, and they would sell it. And this was a lot of the fake dissemination of unicorn horn that really saturated the European markets in the 16th and 17th centuries. So yes, I agree with you that people should absolutely not jump to conclusions. And there are a lot of situations, not just with the narwhal tusk being, passed off as unicorn horn, where people should have a little bit of healthy skepticism about things. I just ask you and everyone else who may have a little bit of doubts just to read the book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn, gather through all the evidence that we've compiled, check our sources. We have about 100 sources listed in our works cited, and really come to a decision for yourself. You may come away after reading this and not believe it, and that's entirely your right to do so. I just ask just to keep an open mind about things, and read the evidence that we've compiled. And yes, I agree with you that there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of jumping to conclusions, both with the unicorn and in so many other topics in the supernatural and the paranormal and just in general society. Like you said, the examples of different races and ethnic groups. I know, being an Italian American, around the 1920s, people were saying that Italians and Jews were, because of brain size or cranial shapes, not fit to immigrate to the U.S. So I know exactly how generalizations can be a dangerous thing and be completely false. But again, I just ask to keep an open mind about this, and knowing that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of people seeing things or hearing about things and then just jumping to far-fetched conclusions. That does happen extensively, and it does happen part of the time with the unicorn, but there is a lot of validity to these many different cultures, these many different spiritual traditions, and all across these different time periods as to what they've seen encountering with the actual unicorn.
I think that injunction of yours, those 4 basic, simple words, keep an open mind, are the most absolutely essential guides that you could possibly hold in your heart and in your mind if you really do seek the truth, as opposed to simply assert a viewpoint or try to get your opinion to dominate.
This should be something that brings us together, the unicorn, because like the dragon, like all the other things, it's something we have in all these different cultures, all over the world. It should bring us together as humanity. We've all come from the same place somehow. We've all come to the same creatures of our dreams.
It leads me also to wonder what might we have missed in our pursuit of logical empiricism as the philosophical be all and end all. There's any kind of belief system out there, dozens of them, hundreds of them over time, astronomical, anthropological, that we may have asserted and missed entirely, or not asserted at all, even when they're staring us right in the face.
Well, that's a great point. Thank you so much for calling in, Marcus.
Thank you, sir.
But that's what I'm saying. The unicorn, in my mind, is something that should bring us together. Like, hey, your ancient past has that. Our ancient past has that. We all something we're missing. Like he's anthropological. There's something we're missing in our past. Why do we share these common mythologies?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jason. I think that's a wonderful point. Is actually with how easy it is to fall into traps of based on religion or other factors. I think we need to unify more than ever. I mean, with some of the problems that we're facing today, we need to come together and look beyond tribalism to really come together. And honestly, if even in a tiny part, this book could do that for the world, that would be amazing. But I think that's a goal that we all need to be looking for, however possible, just so that our species can survive.
Yeah, we're not doing so great right now. we got another call on the line. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm feeling pretty great, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in.
All right, so I got 2 questions. I'll keep them as short as possible. Alfonso, very nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
So my first question goes back to really the legends of how virgins would supposedly be magnets to attract unicorns, and hunters would use them to go after them. My question to you is, according to these legends, why were unicorns really attracted to really the presence of a virgin?
Yeah, I'll just field that question first then. I think it's just the purity of it. The unicorn, one thing that's really central, people, if they ask what is the most important factor of the unicorn, I think it's that purity. There's information in the Chinese tradition of it wouldn't even trample on a blade of grass. So because it has such a pure soul, such an ethical, just beyond even the most saintly person here on earth, because of that, the purity, the closest facsimile to its own purity, and I think that's what really attracted the unicorn to the virgin or the maiden or whatever you want to call that young woman.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'm not a virgin, so I'll definitely never attract a unicorn, but that's besides the point. But anyway, my second question is, so when it came to like a lot of these ancient rulers getting supposedly real or fake unicorn horns, the first thing that came to my mind was when a lot of poachers, they go after the elephants for their tusks, because there's a lot of Chinese businessmen that pay top dollar for grains put into pills and all that, supposedly to increase their fertility or whatever it might be. Based on your own research, did a lot of these rulers collect a lot of these supposedly real or fake unicorn horns for that purpose? Why or why not?
What I found from the research was that it was kind of like a status symbol. So it's almost weird how something so pure can be transformed. We see this all the time in our society, how great ideas or really good ideas lead to horrible manifestations. But even though the unicorn had always had such a tradition of purity, of benefit for humanity, of healing, of spiritual insight, it kind of became for the royalty and the religious leaders at the time and the elite of societies. It was nothing to do with any of those virtues. It was more just kind of like, because of how rare this is, I have it. And they would pay top dollar, and it became a status symbol for the individuals or the institutions that had real unicorn horn or what was perceived as real unicorn horn. And some would even collect, I saw stories of certain European royalty that would have over 10 unicorn horns. There's a Danish king that had his throne made entirely of unicorn horn. So
that would Game of Thrones thorn there. Throne. Right? That's not a good idea, but okay.
But yeah, it was nothing to do with any of the virtues. It from almost as a rule, everything that I saw, it was just about kind of keeping up with the Joneses for that elite sector in society. And the unicorn horn just became very much a status symbol. So before it started filtering into average everyday people, when it was just when only royalty would have it, it was entirely a status symbol, and it was about kind of showing your wealth and your power.
All right, awesome. Well, those are all the questions I had. Thank you so much, Alfonso, for answering them. I greatly appreciate it, brother.
Thanks so much for your questions, brother.
Thanks for calling in, Zach. You have a great night.
Hey, you too, my man. You take it easy.
Now, I've seen, some of the depictions of unicorns. I mean, what I find interesting, like the shared culture thing, I know we focus on that a lot tonight, but is the fact that it's not just the image they share of this horned horse, right? I mean, they all share a similar image.
Yeah.
They also share a similar philosophy that this is a pure being, it's only going to be drawn out by another pure being. It seems they all share this very similar philosophy from what I'm seeing, right?
Well, not necessarily. We did a lot to edit this book before, releasing it to the public, in terms of getting rid of some information that was inaccurate. Although we did keep some of it. Like, we have a chapter on the unicorn in Greece and Rome, and this is around the time of the beginning of Greek civilization, the beginning of the Roman civilization, around 5th century BCE to 5th century Common Era. And during this span of time, information started filtering in about the unicorn from the Near East and from India, from all the trade, going on in the Mediterranean and the trade routes and the Silk Road and all of the beginnings of cultural kind of diffusion. But the Greeks and the Romans, we really were thinking about whether to include this chapter at all. But so much of the information that they had was wrong because they didn't have, they had very few personal encounters with the unicorn, and what they knew was just kind of hearsay. That's sort of like if you ever played a game of telephone. You know that if you're the last person on the game, what you heard is very different from what the first person said. So there are some information. There is some information where the unicorn does not have the same positive virtues, but it was as an editorial distinction that Vakasha and I made to try to present the fullest extent of our knowledge, the truth of the unicorn story. We really tried to cut out the few depictions that were totally distorting what the unicorn is about. There were very few that were connecting it to a dark energy, which is not true. And then but some things like with the Greeks and Romans where it was misunderstandings, we did include for the historical aspect of it.
Well, it might be reflecting on how their just society was then. You're talking about the they had, pretty gluttonous kind of societies a little bit, very similar to ours.
Sure.
It is just without the technology. So they, in a way, are reflections of their own society, how they probably perceived the unicorn. You said they didn't have that much own personal encounters. Now, I was always fascinated as a kid with Alexander the Great.
Yes.
And I know he had a UFO encounter, actually a couple. What we would call UFOs, they called them lights in the sky. I didn't know he had a unicorn encounter. Can you talk a little bit about what happened with that? Because I think that's really fascinating. Like I said, maybe the unicorn only comes to not just a pure heart, but people who are going to be turning points in history, just like these UFO encounters too.
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised when I heard about Alexander the Great. And it's interesting that it's not really from Greek sources or the Greek culture where these legends of Alexander the Great and the unicorn really kind of emanate from. It's actually from one of his biggest rivals. The Persian culture is where these legends of Alexander the Great and his unicorn really emerged from. And in the Persian tradition, Alexander the Great is not known by that name that we would know him by. In that tradition, he's known as Iskandar. And the Persians had this legend about Iskandar where he was the only person. It's kind of like the story of Excalibur, where only one person could really kind of take that sword. Sort of very similar with that with Iskandar. In the Persian tradition, Alexander or Iskandar's father had a unicorn named Bucephalus, and everyone was trying to acquire the unicorn. And they all took different routes. A lot of it was by force and strength, and the unicorn would not emerge, would not join with any of these other men who were trying to, get it through, more aggressive means. Instead, the unicorn went with, I believe he was 13 years old at the time, Iskandar, because Iskandar fed the unicorn. He showed that kindness, and the unicorn, as such a pure creature, responds to those who are pure. That's where the virgin or the maiden comes from. And so, that was why Bucephalus accompanied Iskandar on many of his journeys. And we all know, or many of us know about a lot of Alexander's military expeditions. But in the Persian tradition, they had Iskandar not only fighting rival armies and other, political enemies, but also supernatural enemies. And we really get into that a lot in the book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn in our chapter on the unicorn in Persia. But it was interesting to see that because the Persians have a number of traditions with the unicorn, also tying to the religion of Zoroastrianism. So it wasn't a surprise to really see such a rich legend coming from them.
We do got somebody else on the line I get to here at 204 area code. Who do we got?
Hi, it's Janice here.
Hi, Janice. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Alfonso. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Janice.
I'm calling from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question here regarding the appearance of unicorns, and you mentioned dragons as well. I was curious if their appearance would be taken as some sort of a messenger, or if they're like a spirit guide or some type of protector for people. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a wonderful question.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information from a lot of different cultures that I found through researching this book and writing this book or co-writing this book of where the unicorn would appear to people when they're doing something that's going to really move society forward, which is why we see a lot of these political figures from history having connections to the unicorn. So in that sense, I think that the unicorn definitely could kind of be almost a harbinger of something good about to happen or someone doing something really noteworthy for society in a good way. Never in a way that would be for ill. And I think it's most strongly expressed in terms of the Chinese culture, where there's a belief that the unicorn only appears on the birth or death of a great leader, or when a government is ruling with the people's best interests in mind. So there's only been about 6 different appearances to Chinese leaders in the course of history, and it's not really a reflection on anything. It's just who are the kind of leaders who are going to really do something amazing for society, not just good, not just beneficial, not just respected, but something to really groundbreaking and in terms of the care. And I think it kind of shows how the unicorn kind of really resonates with that pure energy in terms of its symbolic purpose.
Okay. That was my main question. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank
Great
you for
show tonight.
Well, thank you, Janice. It was a good question. I was kind of getting there with Alexander the Great. Thank you for calling in. I was kind of getting there with Alexander the Great too. It's like, is it a harbinger, or is it something that appears for great people in history that are going to really change things? Because the reason why I see it is just I get to that Carl Jung archetype thing, and I know you don't like the phallic symbol of the horn, but the phallic symbol, the wand of a magician, and the tarot, it's a tool of creation.
Yeah.
And that's what it seems like. It's appearing at points that are going to really create something new for humanity.
I mean, that's an interesting point. Definitely the unicorn, in all of these instances, it's usually tied to these great leaders, and they are, usually if you look at historians, they would have a consensus opinion of these leaders being beneficial in some ways. So, or in some cases, in all ways. So, yeah, definitely the creation of a new world, a better world. So yeah, the phallic symbolism in that sense of creation, I could see that definitely.
We got another person on the call. It doesn't show me their area code though, but I only got one person online. You're on the air.
Okay, area code 860. 860. It's Zariana.
Oh, hi, Zariana.
I don't know why. Hi. How is everybody tonight on this nice, very night?
Doing good.
Anyway, excellent. I wanted to tell my experience with the unicorn.
Ooh, yeah.
Unicorn. Yeah. Years ago, I used to have a sacred space that I used to go to and meditate and do some circle work and things like that. And definitely out of the way, and I was always by myself. And a couple of times when I was meditating before I did my work, there would be this beautiful horse, unicorn. And the first time the horse didn't show, I couldn't see the horn, the unicorn horn, but I saw the horse. And the second time I saw the full embodiment of the horse and the horn and the unicorn and everything. And I mean, I can't describe the beautiful color, of the horse itself and the horn. Alfonso kind of described the horn like it was translucent, maybe.
Yeah.
And with so many colors. I mean, and there was such an energy and aura to it that, you wouldn't want to touch it. That's, I just could imagine what would happen. But after that, this unicorn would always be with me when I used to do my work in that spot. You know, never really too many messages, but I just love the you know,
The energy,
just the sheer energy, the vibe, just the gift to see this beautiful animal. You know, I do believe they are interdimensional, like many creatures that we think are, like Bigfoot and dragons and things like that.
fairies.
But
I mean, there's a lot.
you know, yeah, there are a lot.
Well, you made my dreams come true tonight, because it's like, let one person call in that's had a unicorn experience. And you did.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a great night. If there's any comments, you know, I'm listening.
I think that's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Okay.
It sounds very similar.
Welcome, sir. You're welcome.
It sounds very similar to your experience, Alfonso.
Yeah, it was great to hear Ziriana call in, because you know, the way she was describing the color and the presence, it was exactly the same as, I mean, in my case, it was just the horn that appeared, not the whole unicorn. But I think that's great that, you know, when she was meditating and in her sacred space, the unicorn came to her, and not just once, but regularly. I think that's amazing. You know, I kind of wonder, like, what did I do? Am I saying too many jokes here to have it come before me more than once? But no, I mean, I think that's in all seriousness, I think that's wonderful, and I think that is definitely a real unicorn sighting. I mean, and it's great to hear someone else has had this experience too, because, you know, it's definitely not a small club, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, this might be the only time you're going to be on a show where you get a caller in on Paranormal Soup, people.
Yeah, I
they
think
had
so.
a unicorn experience. Thank you, Aziriana. That's awesome. You know, but the question is, like, you had your experience with Ziriana. Do you think this is like one, like, topa? I don't know if you're familiar with the term topa from Tibet, of like a thought form. Sometimes I've always wondered if, like, dragons and unicorns are something that's like a thought form created from our own imaginations, that it's become its own psychic force. I mean, that's one theory I've had. I know it doesn't go along with your theory, but at the same time, is it one, like, conscious entity that's interacting with us, or there are multiple unicorns? I mean, there's one or multiple. What do you think? What have your research shown?
Oh, there's so much we can go into with that. I mean, the first thing I want to kind of say about that is, it almost, you know, speaking of Carl Jung earlier, it almost reminds me of, you know, when you think about different, you know, I'll just take it to different gods that have been worshipped, you know, like the gods of the Middle East before the Abrahamic religions. If you call on them, do they actually exist or not? I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but I wonder personally if enough people believe in something. You know, like Carl Jung expresses with the collective unconsciousness, you know, collective consciousness. You know, does that, if enough people believe in something and ascribe it power, does it make something that was previously, you know, a falsehood real? I don't know the answer to that, but I'd love to, you know, kind of explore that further throughout my life and research and writing. I don't know the answer to that directly.
Well, that's the $1 trillion question.
Absolutely, right?
You know, but that's my thought. It almost feels like it could be something that is something in our psyche. You know, that's what I always loved about Carl Jung is the archetypes. You know, the things that built our psyche. The you know, especially with our fascination of what we see in our dreams and our shared images and meanings of them. You know, something built into our you know, that's carried on from generation to generation. That's built in these core archetypes. And I mean, the unicorn's definitely up there as an archetype. I mean, it's been with us for so long. This is ancient memory, the creation stories. I mean, it's been there. You know, how much of that is, you know, what is interacting with us? Is this some kind of conscious energy that takes this form? Is it one energy? Is it multiple energies that take this form? That, you know, that's kind of like the question I have, is like, is this one energy? Like, because like the eidetic text of the Gnostics talk about one unicorn. They talk about one unicorn in there, but, you know, are there, you know, is it just that one unicorn that we're all interacting with, it, or are there multiple ones?
I would say there's multiple, and the reason I'd say this is because the only situation where there were multiple unicorns in one place, it actually ties to country of Ethiopia in Africa. And there was a leader around the 13th century named Prester John, and he would give unicorns to other dignitaries throughout Africa, the Middle East, and India. Interestingly enough, to tie it back to there, as gifts, basically, to keep the peace and to foster better relations with other rulers and other kingdoms. And European explorers who saw this kingdom of Prester John, they said that there were, I believe, 77 unicorns in his kingdom. And even if there's an exaggeration in terms of the number, even if there's a few, that I think that shows that it's not just one unicorn coming in, in the sense of like in terms of monotheism where there's one God. You're not saying that one God appears to me and another appears to you. I don't think that's really what's happening with the unicorn. I think that there are multiple unicorns, but but I think just from that's just from what I saw from the research. But one thing that I will say, just even after writing this book, is there's so much that's still a mystery about the unicorn, and I think it's one of the things that still gets me so fascinated by the subject. Is I just want to make this clear that the Book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn is Vakasha and I's best understanding of this. I'm not saying that everything in that book is 100% accurate. This is our best understanding, deducing what this information collected from over 100 sources, kind of says, and also what we believe are intuitive guidance from the unicorn itself. That doesn't mean everything is 100% accurate, but it is the best that we understand. So could there be future revelations in the future, from other authors or from, future iterations of this book? Possible. I mean, it's certainly possible. I don't believe that history is something that, doesn't continue to evolve. We should always keep exploring and keep trying to refine our knowledge of the subject. Again, this is just kind of the best understanding as we kind of currently know it from our two flawed human minds.
I got one here from Laura. Who added the rainbow crap to unicorns?
I'm with Lara on that. Like, I mean, so much of the pop culture is so, with the unicorn. It's great for kids, but it's so frivolous. And I mean, that was one of the reasons that also drew me to this book once I started reading the research, is to try to tell the true story as we understand it, and not just the pop culture, version of it. There's nothing to do with rainbows whatsoever in our book. And I personally, as a cynical literary writer, I kind of take pride in that, in the sense of it not being, a commercialized book or, using trivial symbolism that has nothing to do with the unicorn. No, I hate to break it to anyone, the rainbow has nothing to do with the unicorn other than the pop culture.
Well, I would make the speculation here. I'm sorry, Marcus. I'm going to make speculation on this about the unicorn and the rainbow. As the rainbow is a splitting of light, it's in all of its forms, and maybe I'm stretching here, but when you guys describe what you saw of multicolored light, translucentness of the glowing, I guess, unicorn horn, maybe that's why the rainbow got connected to it. I don't know.
I mean, maybe, but marketing people are pretty brilliant. So
yeah, but the thing is, it's all built in our subconscious. Marketing people are human too. It's built into their subconscious. Yeah. They did it for a reason, and maybe the reason, I've heard a lot with my dogs passing about they've gone over the rainbow bridge. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's about the bridge to another dimension. That's why the rainbow is there. I look at symbolism all over the place in marketing. It is very, they grab this stuff. All these corporations and stuff have a lot of ancient symbolism in their marketing.
Oh, you're right. And just going to the archetypes, I mean, I think that's why people resonate so much with marketing. Just back to the rainbows, though, that very well could be. All I'll say is that our research found nothing whatsoever tying the unicorn to the rainbow. But that doesn't mean that there's not, something more to it than that. It just means that, from the research that we found, the sources, there's not an ancient tradition of that, at the very least.
Do you think the unicorn, I mean, like it seems like the unicorn's coming in and out of the human history. Do you think the unicorn's on its comeback tour here? Or?
I do, actually. And part of the reason is, the reason why Vakasha kind of resurrected this project is because I do believe that the unicorn's time is coming soon. If we go back to the same text from this Gnostic society, it's very interesting, not just the past of how the unicorn was connected to the Edenic paradise, but also the future. And this is something that's still a mystery to me, but according to the same text, it said that when our current age, a lot of people call it the Kali Yuga, when this current age is replaced by the new golden age, once that comes in and it's fully materializes, then the unicorn is going to make its reemergence, and it's going to reveal the 3 secret things. I have no idea what they are, but apparently, according to this source, the unicorn will be coming back in to our reality in a big way, so that everyone should be able to see it when that golden age reemerges. Is it going to be in any of our lifetimes? I hope so, but I'm not sure. But according to this text, when our current age reaches its end, the unicorn will reemerge in a way that's not just to one individual person or one great leader or something like that, but to a way that everyone will know and see, and there's going to be no way you can really kind of repeat it.
There's part of me that hopes it's not in our age, because I feel like we have to go to maybe we are really dark times before the unicorn's it comes around. Like we got to go through the real crapola.
Yep.
I don't want to go through, which it feels like.
It would be hard to deal with, that's for sure. So I might be with you there, actually.
Well, it seems like, there is a reemergence I've seen in the last few years of the unicorn, with people believing they can be unicorns. I've had that on the World Wide Web of weird people self-identifying as a unicorn. To each their own. But this shows there's a fascination with unicorns. For Aziriana, it sounds like they could even be your spirit guides.
Yeah, I think the unicorn can absolutely be someone's spirit guide. And just to go back to your other point, when you think about it, I'm a big basketball fan. I've just been kind of a tall guy, so sport came most natural to me. Kristaps Porzingis, one of the best basketball players today. What's his nickname? He's called the Unicorn. It sounds kind of trivial, but it's all parts of things of it reemerging into the popular consciousness after a long dormant period of about 100, 200 years.
Yeah, like I said, one of my favorite movies is Legend, and the whole premise of that is unicorns. That was my first childhood experience of understanding what a unicorn was or loving it was Legend. I've watched that movie a billion times, and if I were to picture a unicorn, I think of the Legend unicorns right off the bat. And I was always a big Yes fan. I think they're one of my favorite bands, and I actually knew somebody who John Anderson was their friend. Friend of the family, and they told me straight up. Well, I was friends with. I went to high school with a girl who he was like Uncle John, whatever. She told me straight up, he believes in fairies, he believes in unicorns, he believes they're real. He meditates, he's super into it and sees them and all this stuff. I'm like, you're kidding me? She's like, I'm not. I'm like, I totally get that from his music. I totally get that from music. So there's people that are definite believers in this, but what do you think people have to do if they do want to connect with the unicorn? What do you think some of the ways that they could do that?
I think the thing that most anyone needs to realize if they want to connect with the unicorn and they have a pure intent to connect with the unicorn is it may not be a physical manifestation. It may not be the whole unicorn appearing before you or, its horn appearing before you, as in my case. But the unicorn could still contact you if you reach out to it in different ways. It may appear to you in dreams. It may appear to you in terms of intuitive information. The unicorn, one thing that we found really from writing this book is the unicorn really wants to help people become their best self in terms of the continual evolution of the soul. Think about it in terms of Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. If we're all here on this planet on our own individual hero's journey to try to become the most actualized versions of ourselves possible, there's a lot of hurdles along the way for all of us who take that perilous but ultimately noble path. If you're on that hero's journey and you're really just in one of those dark nights of the soul and you come to the unicorn just for advice or for help in a particular capacity, it may not be a physical manifestation. It may just be an intuitive knowledge that comes to you, at any point after you make that ask. I've even heard of people kind of seeing large feathers also being a sign that the unicorn's kind of responding to you. So, there's really no limit to how the unicorn may appear to you. I think it's easy. This is a trap that I kind of fall into, like the sensationalism of seeing things and the coolness of the novelty of a physical sighting. The unicorn very well might, be communicating with you in far subtler ways. So if someone wants to communicate with the unicorn, I would just say keep very alert, because it may not be, the unicorn may not hammer you over the head, metaphorically speaking, with its appearance.
Yeah, because it doesn't want you running out going, I saw a unicorn.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the feather thing. I mean, one of the things you see the unicorn with wings. How many of the cultures had it with wings, or did any of them?
That's a really, really interesting question. I've never actually had anyone ask me that before. And the first thing that I thought of when you said that is in the Quran, when the Prophet Muhammad, took flight on Barak, which was the winged horse. In the Quran, we checked this. There was never any attribution of it being one horn, so we didn't call it a unicorn. But it does beg the question of if it might be. I'm not saying it is, but in terms of our research, we didn't find anything connecting the unicorn to it being a flying creature in the sense of using wings to fly. So, but the legends of Pegasus, could it be like a different species of unicorn? Maybe. I just, the way we kind of define this book, we kind of limited it.
Well, it's interesting if you do look at the other like horse mythologies, like Pegasus and the flying horseman or flying horse like that. Makes you wonder. We're still talking about maybe some kind of the same interdimensional entity, and the reason they give it wings is because they see it floating in the air. It's just it flies. It must have wings. That's the only way they understand things fly.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, and it brings me back again to that the mention of the winged horse in the Quran. It's really interesting what this winged horse did with the Prophet Muhammad. Is it transported the Prophet Muhammad into the seventh heaven, into higher dimensional realities, and that's actually very similar to all of the traditions that we saw from things that are conclusively identified as unicorns, with it being a higher dimensional creature. So, again, I'm not saying it is, or that they're, in other horse-like creatures that are mythical or generally tied to myth are unicorns, but I'm also saying that there might be some more conclusive links. I'll keep an open mind about that.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those many things tied to the unicorn and marketing and mythology and like the rainbow. Again, I see the rainbow as a bridge to another side, to another dimension, and that seems to be the main purpose of the unicorn is a bridge between here and the other side, to another dimension, to a higher realm, a better place of being, the Garden of Eden. It comes from something pure. That it is like a bridge or something like that. Now, one of the things, it comes up too with the unicorn, we kind of touched on it, briefly, is there's one of the cultures that was not touched by Europeans or East Asia or all that was the Native Americans. What would, we're coming about 5 minutes on a commercial break here, but I wanted to touch upon the Native Americans, what they had their own kind of unicorn too.
Sure. There's very little information that we found in the Western Hemisphere in the Americas. What we did find were some of the early European explorers to North America, their first interactions with the indigenous people of our continent. There were gifts handed to them, and at least to these explorers, they believed that they were unicorn horns and other things symbolic of the unicorn. And this happened to more than one explorer. And we also found certain traditions where the unicorn horn was tied into certain indigenous magical traditions here in North America. I would really love to find more information about that. I'm going to just have to mention the website again, theunicornbook.com. If you are a member of any of the indigenous communities of North America and you know more about this than I do, because that's the extent of my knowledge from the research that Vakasha and I found, please do reach out to me. I would love to explore this further, in terms of the links between the indigenous communities here and their connection to the unicorn.
Well, I know. I mean, some parts of South America and that they didn't have horses. They didn't even have horses. So if they have an image of something like that, that'd be interesting. That'd be another tie to something. And that gets back to something I've thought. We've had a lot of guests on here on the subject of reincarnation, and we've talked about not only reincarnated thousands, maybe hundreds of times, thousands of times we've been here. We've been reincarnated from other planets.
Yeah.
Alien species. Who's to say the unicorn isn't something from our ancient alien past? On an alien planet, we had unicorns and dragons and all kinds of weird creatures, and then we've carried them over all these years. I mean, is anything reincarnation wise you think connected to this?
It's interesting. I don't know if that's what might be happening here. But on the topic of reincarnation, I firmly believe that the reason I wrote this book and took such a left turn on my career track as a writer to work with this is precisely because of reincarnation.
Oh, really?
I've always been a big, I think probably most viewers and listeners are too, a big fan of the X-Files. And I'd been in a really dark period of my life at the time. I had a teaching assignment, did not go well, and I was on medical leave. And I didn't really do much with my life at the time. After that, I was just recovering, and I would just watch the X-Files every day. And I saw an episode on past life regression, and I had never heard of it at the time. I mean, I of course was familiar with the subject of reincarnation, but I didn't really have any thoughts one way or the other on it. I decided to give it a try with a hypnotist in New York City, Ellie Lewis, who's affiliated with the Edgar Cayce Center in New York. And, just to make a long story short, I found out that in between lives, in between this incarnation, that, I'm currently Alfonso Colasuonno. I've had other lives where I was other people, but in between lives, me and Vakasha, she was a mentor to me, and she was hard on me. She was trying to get the best out of me. I feel like, because there's a continual spiritual evolution and growth, I didn't get all the lessons right. And so she had to manifest once again. We had to come back together precisely because of reincarnation to create this unicorn book. And not just that, but the friendship and the lessons and platonic love between us.
Well, so you were having because we've had a number of different hypnotherapists on the show and past life regression. So this was an in between lives regression you were done, and you saw or what you think is Vakasha.
Yes.
Was this before you met her, or did you know her at the time?
It's interesting because when I went to the past life regression, I could identify everyone except for one figure in the 4 lives that I regressed. But when I went to the life between lives regression, I could not identify this energy. I had no idea who it was. And 6 years later, I met Vakasha, and I knew she was that energy, that guide, steering me towards, more fully reaching my potential.
Well, you were kind of destined to write this book, and we're going to talk more about it in our last half hour of the show. We're going to go to commercial break, but when we come back, phone lines are still open. You can call in. Maybe we can get another person out there who had a unicorn experience. I don't know. I doubt that. I wouldn't be that likely to have 2 people call in on that, but it's amazing. I had one. It's awesome. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X.
Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and interfacediff.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college. I've got a family to support and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Cat Hops, Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
If you were real, that would be so cool. So cool. Oh my gosh, they do exist.
Come with me. Let's have fun adventures together.
You don't have to ask me twice. Whee! It's everything I've ever dreamed.
In the magical land of unicorns, there's no need for clothing.
Whatever you say.
No. Take it off slowly. Yes, that pleases me. Polish my magic horn.
Okay. And then what happens? If you polish a unicorn horn long enough, it gives you magical unicorn mayonnaise. That's what I use to make these sandwiches.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, we've been talking to Alfonso Colasuonno. I'm butchered the longer I go into the night. Author of the book, or co-author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn. He wrote this with Vakasha Brenman, who passed away this last May. I would love to have been able to talk to her. She sounds like she was an amazing woman. Tonight, unicorns. I can't believe the time's gone by so fast tonight talking about a subject I never knew I was going to get to talk about on this show. and who knows, maybe we'll have shows more. There's other creatures we haven't gotten to cover, but I'm glad we're able to check the unicorn off the list, that we've gotten to cover and talk about the unicorn, because it's something that's fascinating me. Again, it's one of those things we've shared throughout all of human history, through all these different cultures in ancient times. This something that's in our consciousness, this great archetype, the unicorn. And I believe there's people out there like Alfonso, like Aziriana, who've had these experiences that interact with it. I can believe it because, like I said, the green floating head, when I was a little kid, that convinced me anything's possible. I think there's other dimensions and other entities that can manifest here in multiple ways. Dogman, I mean, think about that. You know, do you think there's really a dogman, just a physical creature walking? No, it's probably interdimensional, just like the unicorn. And like I call the show Paranormal Soup. I believe all these things are connected in some way. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you for hanging in there with me, Alfonso. Sorry about the robot chicken skit. I had to do it. I'm a huge robot chicken fan. I love some of their unicorn skits are the best.
Hey, I mean, I keep a sense of humor about everything, so I thought that was pretty funny myself.
But I was like, don't play that. I'm like, come on. Only time I'm ever going to play one of my favorite robot chicken skits.
You got to seize the opportunity when it comes, and this is the opportunity.
Yeah. Had to. But in all seriousness of the unicorn, you've talked about it, of it coming back or manifesting again, and it's starting to reemerge in maybe the human consciousness. What is what is the ultimate goal of the unicorn? Its purpose completely to be here? Well,
just as a writer, some of the best endings are tied with the beginning. So my first instinct, answering that question is to look at how the unicorn, was present in the real beginning. And I'm not talking about the earliest known human civilizations, which, that in and of itself is still up for debate. Creation. Yeah, but when you talk about creation, if you look in the Western or Gnostic traditions with the Edenic paradise, and then we look in the Chinese legends of the unicorn being tied to the creation of the world, we see the unicorn was tied to the creation of the creation of the world from China, and then we see from the Gnostic tradition of the unicorn being with the Creator and the first man and first woman in this Edenic paradise. So if we're going back to the beginning for the ending or the reemergence, I think it's going to have to be tied to that love or a new creation. Going again with the horn and the phallic symbolism of it, it would be a creation of a new and better form of humanity. It could even be a return to the paradise that we only know about through religious and other texts of where we as humanity once were. So I think it's going to be good when it reemerges. But like you said earlier, I wonder about those periods before that. It could be very rocky. And, we have difficulties nowadays, but I think it's going to have to get a lot worse before we see the unicorn reemerge.
Well, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I was mentioned before the show how China is making genetic super soldiers. I'm like, wow, they taking that right out of the page of Star Trek with Khan. And, I say I'd love to have the utopia of society of Star Trek, a betterment of humanity. We don't, like Picard says, we don't strive after monetary or material items. We better ourselves. But you know what they had to go through? They had to go through nuclear war, like World War III to get there. I'm like, do we really have to do that? That's what I feel like with the unicorn to come back. We're going to have to go through some really dark times. And lately it feels kind of dark, with COVID and everything. Do you think the unicorn has anything to do to help in this time where we're facing this pandemic?
Maybe, but I don't think that the COVID pandemic is obviously something very difficult for all of us to deal with. I've lost a friend, to COVID. So I'm the first person not to poke to take the subject lightly. But, and I hope people don't misunderstand the statement. COVID, as challenging as it is, as difficult as it is, I think things get a lot worse, whether it's in terms of a public health crisis or just in other ways. If we think about how many countries nowadays have nuclear weapons, and how easy things can spiral out of control if one of those countries, were to use it. Things could get a lot worse than COVID. I know we're all struggling because of it. It's not, something to treat in a flippant way. But in terms of COVID being enough for the unicorn return or to personally interfere with, maybe, but I think things would have to be a lot worse for the unicorn to fully reemerge.
Well, I think in society is being right now, right in front of our eyes, being completely changed by COVID. They talk about the new normal. Well, if the unicorn is going to show up when societies across the whole world are about to make a big change, it seems like it's time to show up because I cringe at it's the new normal. I cringe at that term because I'm like, I don't want this to be the new normal. It seems like we will never go back to the way things were. That's how it feels. That's how it's getting more and every day. And I think that's what depresses people the most. Like, we're never going back. Maybe we will, maybe we don't. But if we're not, then that seems like this is time for a great change and time for the unicorn to show up.
And not just with COVID. I was listening to an earlier episode, in the last few days, and I heard you talk about some of these robots, these AIs that were, kind of impaling people and things like that. We don't have the best track record, as a species. If AI could be the nightmare scenario, if it judges us, to be if AI goes to war with us, I don't know if that would be something we could win. Or, people talk about if dark entities, extraterrestrial entities go to war with us, that's another war we can't win. I think those things, if those scenarios come to pass in such a, dark way, such a harmful way to humanity, maybe that would be enough. I definitely think you're right about the new normal. I hate the term too. But I do think our societies are going to change, unfortunately, in many ways that are very negative. We'll lose a lot of that humanity and that connection that brings us together, that unifies us. We're becoming more disconnected. Zoom calls with family might become more common than
well, no, that's my point. My scare is, it's great. Technology is great. We were talking about this now, just last Sunday, about how, it's a tool. It can be used good or bad. But technology is great in the sense, we got the Zoom calls. We can at least connect. If this would have happened when we were kids, we would have been screwed. We've been stuck in a house with our parents with whatever's on TV at the time. I try to explain that to my kids. We didn't have Netflix. My day, we didn't have no Netflix. Say we can pick what we want on a TV. Now these kids have a virtual world they live in, but that's also what scares me. How we're changing our who we are, and this technology is going to take over so much now because we are being isolated. Because we're being isolated in homes, now we're getting the deliveries. Now we're gonna have the drones delivering off stuff like Skynet in the air, and we're gonna have living in the matrix of virtual world because we can't touch each other because we're gonna get some horrible disease now. We're all gonna be scared of. I feel us going towards this, dependence, so much of dependence on technology that's gonna just tear us away from any chance of being more spiritual.
Yeah, I mean, it very well might be the case. Just to go into a little bit of a different topic. I always found it fascinating when people theorize about gray aliens being humanity from the future, and the path we choose towards going towards a more robotic, emotionless, kind of scenario where emotionless, sexless, everything of the sort, and just becoming, these kinds of figures.
Automons, or what are we going to call them?
Exactly.
Autobots. Yeah.
And so I wonder if this is kind of the birth pangs of that kind of new direction for humanity, which would be a lot worse than what we're dealing with right now. So maybe, I hope not. I hope things can get back to as much as normal as possible after this is neutralized.
I've talked about my idea that, the possibility of aliens being from the future, or future us, or maybe future us from a parallel universe of a possible timeline, because the future is always in motion and there's possible futures. Who knows? But if that is our future, dear God, no, because they don't look like they have any individualism. They're all the same. And that's not good. That's not what I want.
I mean, and they very well could be from the future. I've heard a lot about different time travelers. So, with science and the singularity being, supposed to come potentially in 20, 25 years, it's amazing just the speed of what technology has already accomplished in our own lifetimes. Give it another 50, 100 years, time travel seems like one of those impossible goals, but,
you never know.
It may be reached, and if it does, I mean, I've been really fascinated. I hope maybe I could even write a book about it, about the Mandela effect. And I wonder if that's sort of like you see in Back to the Future, like if these changes and things that we see that we all generally believe are true or not true, I wonder if that's a product of time travel taking place in small quantities.
Right. It's affecting us now, and that's why things have changed. We have different memories than what we do now. I'm a big time travel fan of the Mandela effect. Yep. Yeah. Definitely, if you have a book on that, coming on the show for that, because I love that. I love that topic. But that all gets down to like what we're trying to understand of what reality is, parallel universes, parallel timelines, living on other planets and past lives, there's so much we don't understand. I tell people I call this show Paranormal Soup because I believe Bigfoots, aliens, unicorns, they're all connected. It's all this one big soup of stuff we don't understand yet. But it could be understood, at some point, I would hope.
And I wonder if part of the reason is we're not supposed to understand this. I mean, it was so interesting when I had the past life regression and the life between lives regression. But I think there's a reason why most people don't, realize this, to kind of seize the moment where we are today, who we are today. So I wonder if technology might kind of force the gates of heaven, so to speak. And I wonder what the consequences might be for humanity, just depending on how far we push it. Because if 6,000 recorded years of human history has told us anything, when there's a path to trail, to blaze, we're going to blaze it. So, for good or ill. So I guess we'll find out.
Well, like I said, my fear of technology is it's great. I mean, I'm doing this show because of technology. I would not have, the reach or be able to do what I do without technology and the internet and all this wonderful StreamYard, lovely service. But my fear of technology is it's totally separating us from that other side, that spiritual side where the unicorn exists. There's a show that came out this last year called Upload on Amazon Prime. And in it, basically, they've discovered how to make an artificial afterlife for people. basically. Instead of them dying, they go on in this computer virtual world instead, where they get charged for everything. So you're still having to you don't work anymore, you're dead, but you still have to pay for all this stuff in the eternal world of the virtual afterlife. They like charge you for a cup of non-existent coffee. It's a nightmare, honestly. And that's what I fear. I don't know if did you ever see that show Upload?
No, I actually hadn't heard of it, but it's going to go on my, you said it's on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. Yeah. I hope they make another season of it. Yeah. I don't want to spoil it, but they'll leave you hanging. You're like, you better have another season of this. But it's a nightmare scenario. Like, it seems like, oh, great, we could keep our family members alive and visit them anytime in virtual world and they can live. No, it's a nightmare because it gets corporatized and it becomes a whole money industry. But it also makes me fear, like, because in the scenarios, and one of the characters wants her father to go over to this virtual afterlife, and he's like, I'm not doing it. And he's like, my wife died. I want to go where she went. And that's where we're going to come down. If we ever had the ability to, the master how we capture the soul and put it in a virtual matrix or something like that, it'd be horrible, I think, because we're cutting ourselves off from our eventual destination.
Yeah,
where the unicorn might reside.
I think a lot of people, and I'll be honest, I do as well. Even having these experiences and seeing glimpses of previous lives, I think death is a real fear, and so I think it's natural that when the technology arises, for a lot of people to kind of fall into this trap of digital immortality. But death is not necessarily a bad thing, which I know that could get misconstrued, that statement, but there's a reason for it. And I wonder if an artificial life would be kind of a hellscape.
Right.
That's what commercialized. Absolutely.
That's what Upload shows you. It's like, yeah, this is going to be, again, to China, don't do it. China keeps on taking these movies and shows and thinking it's a roadmap how to do things. Like they called their AI Skynet. I'm like, why? It's not a roadmap. Don't also come up with watch Upload China and come up with a way to put people in the afterlife in a digital matrix. I mean, that's what I fear is like people. It's ultimately why people like try to hunt down unicorns. It's like, oh, you say that horn gives me immortality. Well, I'm going to hunt that down and I'm going to kill that thing and take that horn because that's what I do as a human. I'm going to survive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets us into trouble, and it's gotten us into trouble in many points in human history. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And
right, like the nuclear bomb.
Exactly.
But it's like, are we going to learn the hard lesson? That's the question. I was saying that last Sunday. Even from where we're in these weird divisive times we are, where do we land on our feet from here? Do we land on our feet from here? And that's the worry. And maybe we need the unicorn to kind of show up here. we need something. Come on, unicorn.
I would love the unicorn to reemerge, but I still think it as tough as it is, like I think things get a lot worse. And I hate to say it, but I think things would have to get a lot worse before we see the unicorns reemerge, because there's still a lot of.
You're a writer.
Well, I'm a writer, so I can always think of another conflict and another plot turn to make things worse. So maybe that's part of it, but yeah.
I'm trying to do a little bit of my writing in my time, and it's like we need some more. We need some Terminators and some apocalyptic stuff. Then we'll be there.
And maybe that wouldn't even be enough. So we'll see. We'll see.
But that's the thing. The crux of this, the manifestation of the unicorn, or it reemerging in consciousness at the same time that we are as a society moving more and more to this artificial world. And that's what I see. I've seen it. I see it now with my son in his virtual world of video games, and I'm just as guilty. I let him do it. But being in a virtual world of video games and on Google Hangouts calls with his friends, he's got to live in a virtual world pretty much because he doesn't leave the doors of his house right now. And it's going to change a whole generation of kids are going to be completely glued into this now. They're going to be completely glued into this technology because they're being raised right on it.
I mean, it's weird. Like, I mean, I'm not a father yet, but I wonder about kids nowadays if they just go out on the street playing with their friends like I did when I was young. I mean, with so much digital technology and how powerful and how fun some of it is, I wonder if how much of that the real human core of us is being lost. So
that's my worry.
Yeah.
we're gonna have my fear is we're gonna have less people seeing unicorns. We're gonna have less people connecting to that other side of that other dimension because they're so sucked into this virtual world. I mean, people I see it now on social media getting so upset over stuff that somebody printed on a Facebook or Twitter post. I'm like, seriously? Does anything somebody says on any post really affect you in your life? All you got to do is ignore it.
I agree with you there.
I mean, I see people get super offended about everything online and I mean, it's just, it's why I always said, like, if there was, oh shoot, we lost Rob. If humans had the ability to like read each other's mind, it'd probably be a horrible thing.
It probably would. That's
what
why
the internet is.
Yep. I mean, it's weird too that you say this because, just so much of context is lost online when you're not physically there with a person or hearing their voice, in terms of like Facebook messages or Twitter posts or something like that. Someone could be saying something totally as a joke and, you'd laugh with them if you were in person, but you think they're a horrible person because they're just joking. It's so easy to get misconstrued and demonize people for it. It's scary. Just especially as a writer, operating from the medium of print, how easily things get misunderstood. I worry about these trends in society in that sense.
Yeah, the cancel culture and everything going on right now. Everything's so divisive and argumentative, and we're at each other's throats with this stuff. And I swear, it's just what my prediction years ago and years ago, having these conversations with my friends and my wife and that about if we all could have telepathy, it'd probably rip society apart because we would just. Or whatever random thought comes to our mind, it's insulting. It's going to come out, and somebody's going to be insulted. Here we are with the internet. It is our telepathy in a way because people don't filter themselves. A lot of times they're behind the keyboard and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to type this up and say this, woohoo!" And maybe I don't think I'm going to offend a lot of people. And next thing you know, I got offended everybody.
Yep. Yeah, that's happened to me directly, actually, a few times with some ill-timed Facebook posts and stuff, and it's just sad to see. I've lost friends for this. It's just kind of a sad trend actually in society.
You think having an ultimate form of communication where we could all connect with each other would bring people together, but sure as heck, it's done the opposite. It's done the opposite. That's well done, humanity. Well done.
And that's why we need the unicorn more than ever. So,
right. Exactly. Yep. That's what I'm saying. We need that unity. That's what I was talking when Marcus called in, is like, where he was going to talk about, we don't want to be divisive and we want to, I'm like, things like the unicorn should bring us together because it's something we all share in all of our cultures, all of our past. These things should tell us that we all come from some kind of the same source, that we all share this in our consciousness for some reason we don't understand yet, but that should be something that brings us together.
Yeah, I mean, depending, since all people of all different races and cultures and religions, and all other factors that we could use to separate ourselves, since there's interactions with the unicorn in all of these, I mean, again, if the unicorn could be, I don't want to use the word co-opted, but co-opted as a symbol of unification, I would love that. I mean, anything to bring us together because, we're going to only be a better species if we unite rather than just be at each other's throats over everything. And if we really want to have a better future, not just for us, but for our kids and grandkids and many future generations after that, we really need to. It's not even just it would be such a good thing. We kind of need to, otherwise, the alternative is not very pretty.
Well, Ronald Reagan pointed out in 3 speeches about how we'd all unite if there was an alien invasion. So alien, AI, some kind of external force that's going to threaten humanity will probably bring us together, we hope. COVID didn't do it.
No, it didn't.
So that's not a good sign. But, that's the thing, that's what kind of ticks me off. Like, the place I work for is like, through this together. And I'm like, I love that. But the problem is I don't feel like we're in this together. There's so much divisiveness. So it makes me wonder if the theory of like, if there's an alien threat, we'll all come together.
Ooh, I hope we will.
I hope we will. But I think we're going to argue still from what I'm seeing what's going on now.
I'm inclined to believe, kind of agree with you. And that's a sad thing really for where we are. But hopefully over these next few years, next few decades, we can just keep getting more and more spiritually aware and just realize, and just even if you don't have any sort of spiritual mooring, just be more ethical. Just treat people right. And I think if we could just get that simple lesson right as a species, or at least the vast majority of us, all these problems, when they come, we'd be far better equipped to deal with them.
I was to say, if everybody could just live by the simple golden rule, treat others as how you would want to be treated, this world would be a lot better place. But we always forget that.
Exactly.
Yep. That seems to be the big problem. Now, do you have future projects coming up, or what's in the store for you, Alfonso? What are you working on next?
This is kind of an interesting transition point. Right now, the next thing I'm going to probably be working on is working as a developmental editor for my friend and partner, Pete Zaccanino, the second book in his series, Relevant. It's a totally different type of book from the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn. It explores counterterrorism from the perspective of private military contractors, people who don't wear any flags.
That's a completely different topic.
I like interesting projects of any sort, and working with good people who are hardworking and motivated like Pete. And we're going to be working on a sequel. I'll be his developmental editor for that. So if people, in addition to checking out the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn, you can check out Relevant. The author's name is Pete Zaccanino. He's got another very difficult name. And we're going to be working on that as a sequel, in the next few months. And after that, I would really love to go back to some of the more interesting paranormal topics, like the Mandela effect, or something of the sort. I'd love to really kind of do some research on this and write a book exploring this, because that's been kind of my biggest fixation over the last year.
If you ever want somebody to just brainstorm with on the Mandela effect and time travel, I'm your guy, man. Give me a call. I'll give you my phone number. We'll just talk. We'll just talk about it, because I have ideas. I mean, my idea about reality, what we could be shifting in and out of different universes every day. You mean, think about it. If the idea that there's parallel universes, I mean, if for every decision there's another universe created, or there's multiple different, an infinite amount of timelines, you could be shifting in and out of them at different times. You don't even realize it, because there's just a small little difference, and that's why there's a Mandela effect.
I mean, that very well could be. I'll definitely take you up on that offer, because that has just been so on my mind. Really, it's just a big mystery to me, and I'd love to. I don't know if I could ever, conclusively unravel it, but definitely I'd like to try it. So
yeah, I wanted to write fiction. I wanted to get into time travel stories and stuff. I've had some ideas and some dead novels, and I want to get back into it, because I love that idea of parallel universes and parallel timelines. Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw the John Teeter stuff.
Yes,
I think it was a hoax, but it was if it's a hoax, a really interesting, really fascinating idea of parallel timelines and time travel and all that. I definitely highly recommend anybody checking that stuff out. But yeah, if you got to write a book on it.
I would love to, and we should definitely brainstorm on this and on other things. I'll definitely take you up on that offer, because it gives me such energy just talking about all this stuff.
I know Gavin's always bugged me. He's like, when are you going to write a book? I got a lot of dead ones. I don't know. I might try again.
Give it a try. It's just a marathon, really. That's all it is. Just keep going through it, really.
I keep telling myself I'll run that marathon when my kids are older and I get quiet time again. I've been trying to edit videos for these. We do these spirit box shows.
Oh yeah.
I did one on a friend's show. I did one for her. She did 5 hours of show, so I got a lot of phone calls to go through. And I still have a past show that takes like 2 hours per call to just edit that. I'm like, I'll never get to writing. I can't even get to this. Not till my kids get grown up.
I have a lot of friends who are film editors, and I don't envy their job. I always find it easier being in front of the camera when I kind of take those kinds of forays. So,
well, Alfonso, thank you again for being on the show. The book is the book of the mythical, or the book of the magical mythical unicorn. Check it out. People, you can find it on Amazon?
Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and just all sorts of different places wherever books are sold. So if you really want to just get to unravel the mystery of the unicorn, please pick up a copy of the Book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn.
Well, thank you, Alfonso. That's it for the show, guys. We will be back next Sunday, same bat time, same bat channel. Our guest will be Myron Edwards. We're going to talk about the goddess Aphrodite. I wrote a fictional book on it, but he's had a lot of personal experiences with it and research. So we'll get into that. We're going to Greek mythology, a lot of mythology lately. So I love it. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you to everybody who shares out the show. Keep doing it. Keep telling people about Paranormal Soup. And thank you to the Patrons. Your donations, $2 a month, do help pay the bills for the show. So thank you so much. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday.